most critical.
Make more family fun for less at Target.
I love trying my computer on after the
Just like us, pets can have digestive issues too. That's why we recommend Royal Canin veterinary diets. They partner with veterinarians around the world to create precisely balanced formulas to promote digestive health. Royal Canin veterinary diets. It's the solution for our pets with digestive issues.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
Really hype it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you good? Right. Okay. Hey. Bye.
Actually, technically,
I love my watch.
what's the boundary?
We go start pulling people like just to come in.
No, I mean like,
Faster than
we're saying
yeah.
others, like,
We have like an excursion to go to different states. Get here. We call it. It's not. But yes, I think we can. That constitutional amendment also has to pass.
I mean, 75% of non-citizen bills are
Oh, all So we don't even have to lose what? It'll make the night go up. Really quick, if I haven't caught you yet, there is pizza in the back. Please feel free to eat some pizza because we have extra from Pizza and Parla. We'll be getting started here in just a couple minutes, everyone.
Where's the pizza?
Get back.
It's what? Oh, it does. I did the floor. I'll be right back.
Really? I kind of forgot about them too. It might be fun sometime.
I want to keep it relevant.
We can just leave it out for now, just to use carry around. That was such a moment. When I saw it, like, well, we never know.
He had like one comment that said
Well, there you go. There you go.
Oh, okay.
You look gorgeous.
Why are you so British? I'm upset. I didn't see what's everyone.
No, it's okay. It happens.
Well, I don't know.
That's my bad. I don't know.
No. Actually, I brought 2 chapters worth of notes, but there's 2 chapters that I actually did. He's right. Whatever. Oh well. Maggie, and you're so cool. Yeah, why are
Your
you
haircut
so
looks
pretty?
great in an outfit.
Maggie, you look chic today.
Yeah, we gotta quit that.
I'll take you in.
All right, we'll be starting just a few minutes late. I know that we're waiting on a few more people to get here. My apologies, but we're gonna pump some jams in the meantime. So.
Hold on, next, baby.
No, that was great.
The baby. Just kidding, no, not the baby.
I am taking genre requests. Do I have a genre request?
Bottom bitch by Doja Cat.
Alternative.
Anyways. Alternative?
Do karaoke music.
No, alternative.
Things that I can sing to.
I love you. Fuck you.
Not.
Stop! Stop! I'm gonna cry.
Just alternative.
Okay. And it was with alternative, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, I'm trying to catch up.
Specific decade?
I mean, I like more recent stuff, but I don't know if they have essentially 2000.
Essentially alternative?
No, the 2000s.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, October 7th, 2021 with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Nick, we'll hand it to you for first roll call.
Thanks so much, Blake, and good evening, everyone. First, Bain. Bannister.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Binkley.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Booze.
Here.
Brummett. Kahlo. Chapas.
Here.
Compton.
Here.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Here.
Encero.
Here.
Esslinger.
Here.
Fuss.
Here.
Gann.
Here.
Glasscock. Holland.
Here.
Hotzel.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Kramer.
Here.
Lister.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Lynn.
Here.
Marquez. Mayer.
Here.
McPhee.
Here.
Middow.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Pineda Gomez.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Prester.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Riffle.
Here.
Rook.
Here.
Salmon.
Here.
Scharnhorst.
Here.
Shear.
Here.
Splekel.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Volgamore.
Here.
Wallace.
Here.
Warren.
Here.
Willis Jackson.
Here.
And Willis Reese. All right, fantastic. Fantastic, thank you. We have 40 senators present for roll.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And with that, we will move to our first open period. And first up, we have our Dean of Libraries, Dean Joe Majnik. Want to give him a round of applause?
Get the mic so that the folks can hear me out there too. All right. Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Online and here? All right. Good evening, everybody. Okay, so I have my 25-page manuscript. So how much time until midnight? No. Very good. Good evening. My name is Joe Mochnik. I'm the Dean of Libraries here. What a privilege to be with you tonight. We just finished a tour of the library for the executive committee, and it was just wonderful to have some of your colleagues and folks to come and stop by the library to take a look. What a spectacular library was it? What did you get out of the tour? Anybody?
That building is incredible.
Yes, I second that. The building is incredible. What
We have
else?
one of the largest cookbook collections and nationwide or
Did you hear
even
that?
worldwide maybe.
We do have one of the largest cookbook collections in the nation. We also have a consumer movement archive. Consumer movement archive is, do you know what consumer movement archive is? It's a collection of documents that goes back and traces out the movement that it's commonly called consumer movement, but it really refers to the processes that helped us live a safer and better lives today. So, for instance, you would find the first documents about establishing seat belts in the cars. Okay, it's very important for us, isn't it? Overall, kind of like that the cars operate and they don't kill us unnecessarily. You know, some of the cars were pretty dangerous when they were built initially. That our food processing actually doesn't poison us in the process. So consumer movement really talks about many of those things. I think it's one of the very valuable and very important kind of things that we have in the library. And I think it's just spectacular. So first, thank you so much to the leadership for inviting me. I consider this a privilege and an honor to be invited. I would like to self-invite myself on a semester basis or an annual basis, whatever works for you. I think it may be valuable for us to have this open conversation. We have an amazing library. Your colleague just said the building is spectacular. And I'm going to briefly tell you, I know I have 10 minutes altogether, so I'm going to very briefly tell you some of the things, what is happening in the library right now. So the library had a fire in 2018, in May 2018. At that time, the library was taken basically off of its usability. And we, right now, this is the first semester when we are fully operational. Your colleagues can tell you when you walk through the building, there are some amazing and spectacular places. Your colleagues can also tell you that we don't have all of the technology yet, and we don't have all of the furniture there yet. We are hoping that by the end of the semester, hopefully by the beginning of the next semester, we are going to have all of it really in fully operational sense. However, we invite you to come and to visit us. starting from the first floor. As soon as you come in, there's a coffee shop. It is Joyce and Joe Hale, those were the original Hales, who gave money to build the extension, 1997 extension to the library. There's a coffee shop. You can help yourself, refresh yourself. Right there on the first floor, you have a learning commons. There is a Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab where you can really push yourself and your technological knowledge and embrace yourselves and try to do some 3D printing, laser cutting, and technologies like that. From there, you can go to the Curriculum Development Center, check out some juvenile collection, that is children's literature. Then go to the second floor. On the second floor, you can go to the Dow Multicultural Center. It's quite amazing, and it really opens up opportunities for multicultural exchanges and building it from there. On the second floor is also our help desk. Our help desk is a joint help desk with ITS, so this is the place where you can check out items, you can borrow things, you can take them out and move forward from there. We also have around 100 computers on the second floor. Certainly, please make sure and utilize them. As you move up and go to the third floor, you're going to encounter some of the first collections of books. Our first two floors don't have too many right there. The third floor has a little bit more. This is also a place where you're going to find the access to the Great Room. How many of you have been to the Great Room? Actually, I should have asked who hasn't been to the Great Room yet? You have to go. Isn't it amazing? Isn't the Great Room amazing? Yeah, check it out. So on the third floor is the Great Room. That is the 1927 section of the library. It's quite amazing. We also have foot washing station. We also have a meditation room on the third floor. All of our new restrooms are gender neutral restroom. We have a lactation room as well. We really kind of try to pay attention to multicultural, to equity, diversity, and inclusion, to issues like that matter to you. So if we are missing something, please let me know. Let us know how we can improve and how we can move forward with that. So after you finish with the third floor and you go onto the fourth floor, you're going to see some more wonderful study spaces. I forgot to mention about the learning commons on the first floor. We have lots of study rooms that you can reserve. And then you can, on the fourth floor, you're going to have some stacks. You're going to also see the Academic Learning Center. This is a center dedicated for the student athletes. It's quite impressive, isn't it, folks? Didn't you like it? Quite amazing. And then when you go on the fifth floor, you're going to find special collections, archives, consumer movement, cookbooks, quite a few other treasures that this institution is very proud of. And then you're going to find the hemisphere room, my office, the admin office, and lots of folks work out there. So my value proposition to you here is multifold. At the base level, library, Hay Library, K-State Libraries is about student success. Everything that we do, every single thing that we do is about your success. And we do that for a wonderful cost of $0. Can you have a better value proposition than that? You have 500,000 square feet. You have scores of faculty and staff who do everything for you, who provide resources, who really think about you day in and day out, and try to make sure that you succeed in everything that you do. You can utilize technology. You can utilize information literacy. You can really find a way how you're going to integrate teaching, learning, and research, how you're going to help yourself. And please, rely on us. Rely on us when you need, and when you need any type of support, broadly speaking. We also closely integrate with information technology and many other services on campus. Our new building is only the tip of the iceberg. Not only that our building provides new and enhanced student spaces, but it also allows us to more effectively to connect and engage with our community and campus to provide our services, and especially services that are teaching and research and learning support, something that matters to you on daily basis. I'm personally quite excited. I hope you're excited as well. I would like you to think about sustainability. So we have a brand new library right now, but we are kind of thinking how we are going to move forward and how can Student Government Association help us. I would like to officially thank you for your investment in the laptop checkout station. It is available on the second floor right in front of the help desk. This was paid from the Student Government Association dollars. I would like you to consider to partner with us, to explore opportunities, how we can develop and how we can help. You have probably heard about Open Educational Resources Initiative. This is our attempt to figure out and to help how to help the most vulnerable students on campus, those that cannot afford, for whom affordability is a matter whether they are going to stay in school or whether they're going to drop out. We are trying to help them with a textbook initiative that is really taking the burden of buying textbooks as much as possible away by partnering with faculty and by partnering with you to ensure that we succeed in that. I'm going to pause there for a moment and perhaps open it up for a couple of questions if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah, are there any questions for Dean Majnik? Chair Richenberg.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you do. I know I love Hale Library so much. Probably my favorite place to study on campus. But my question to you, if you put yourself back in your student years, where would be your go-to place to study?
Oh, I was just asked that question. So I'm going to start with Great Rome, but I'm really thinking about technology. So when you're going to leave this place when you graduate, you may end up all over in any workplace, wherever you go. And one of the things that somehow your boss or your colleagues are going to assume, since you're coming from the STEM institution, that you actually know technology. That some of these technological things might have rubbed off of you. That you know how to run a 3D printer. That you know how to run a laser cutter. That you know how to run a CNC machine. That you have been infused. That you know how to do visualization, data visualization, and do things like that. I would strongly encourage you. That would be the place where I would be. So that is Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab. That's the place where you can go and learn some of the skills that your colleagues, your roommates actually learn in the classes, but you may not have access to it. If you're in engineering, many of those resources are available to you. If you're in some other areas, again, they may be available to you, but if you're in some other majors, you may not have that access. The library provides that valuable service and would like to partner with you. I'm going to go even further. I'm going to ask you, what are the things that you think or that you're observing that you would like us to have? Make your recommendation directly to me. There is a form when you go on the library page. You just write under my name and my welcome. There is a form. You can submit it anonymously. You can put your email. Either works, whichever prefer. I mean, if you want me to follow up with you, I would prefer your email. If not, you can just submit an anonymous comment and tell me how we can move forward. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Senator Blood.
Yeah, thank you again. I've kind of been exploring some of the different opportunities, especially in the innovation lab, as you mentioned. What work has the library done to really be able to partner with like departments and clubs and student organizations to kind of be able to recognize what resources are there and use them? I know one of my clubs is looking at using your data visualization to do a Google Earth walkthrough of a community in Nicaragua before we implement a water pump there. And so, but no one knew about it. Just I kind of stumbled in there and discovered that. So I don't know what opportunities, what things you guys have looked at to build on those connections so that in your classes you're starting to come to the library to utilize those resources as well.
Wonderful question. I'm going to be facetious. I am here. This is what I'm doing right now. So the library just opened, okay? We are just full operational right now. Supply chain is really holding us back. Lots of technology is not there. But what we have done so far, so we have reached out to architecture, landscape, architecture, planning and design, and we have several groups of students who are coming and partnering with us. We have reached to geography. We have some other statistics. We have a couple of other areas that we are reaching out. One of the big things that I'm going to share with you is really currently interdisciplinary collaboration that is happening with the new digital media innovation degree. That is an interdisciplinary degree from arts and sciences, from engineering, and from business. So business is providing the entrepreneurship and innovation certificate. Engineering is providing I'm going to say engineering certificate, and arts and sciences is kind of like a digital media and communication certificate that is merged together into one undergraduate degree. And our proposition is that Sunderland Foundation Lab is going to be the technological kind of like angle that is going to support that degree. What I'm going to ask you tonight is, my previous successes have been really when the faculty would, on the syllabi, would put an assignment and say, okay, your final assignment for this course is X, let's say you have to write a paper. And if they can give you an option and say, or you can express your creativity by utilizing Sunderland Foundation Innovation Lab. Just a line like that on good number of syllabi would make and change things, because many of you here would kind of say, wow, how can I express this concept that I'm learning in some 3D, in a visual manner? How can I articulate some of it? And it may not be the entire assignment, it may be just a component of the assignment, but you can utilize some of this technology and really move it forward. I think that's my personal desire, but build stronger ties with any other units on campus and building those relationships that can help us. Is this helping?
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Senator Booz.
Yeah, again, thank you for coming out. I've long had an interest in the Open Alternative Textbook Program, and yeah, thank you for supporting that as well. What sort of things could we do to partner with you to work on expanding
I'm
that?
so glad you asked. Well, you are the voice that matters more than my voice, okay? And that's, this is not supposed to mean anything else, but what I'm saying is, when Student Government Association comes together and tonight makes a recommendation for a particular action, the provost and the president and the Senate, faculty senate listens to you. When I make a recommendation, they say, oh, he's just asking for money. And I'm asking for money, but you're also asking for money, but you have that leverage. I think, let's hone in on the topic of affordability. If we all collectively agree that affordability here at K-State, in the state of Kansas, is something that is important for us, I think I would like to build this and nurturing this partnership. This is really a partnership. I don't think one unit, the library, cannot do it alone. I'm going to say you may not be able to do it by yourself alone, but if you partner together and if you pull a couple of other folks together, I can tell you that the faculty senate is passionate. Quite a few other entities on campus are passionate. I think the key to success to this is, again, I'm going to use this word sustainability. You're going to hear me say a lot, because it's one thing that we can do one semester, but we would like to repeat. We would like to repeat that success every semester as possible. So even if we cut the cost for, let's say, from a textbook that costs here $150, if we can cut it down to $50, I'm going to call that a major success, because we really removed significant amount of barrier. We may not be able to go to totally free environment in all instances. It will be preferable. But even if we significantly cut it down, if we bring it down to half or 1/3 what it is right now, I think we can collectively be quite proud of that accomplishment. Let me just share statistics that the foundation likes to share. We had a giving day in the spring. There were around $500,000 raised for the Open Textbook Initiative. The foundation claims that we have saved roughly around $7 million by leveraging dollars that we have received. So if you multiply, even with my basic skills of arithmetic, this is 10-time return on every single dollar that we put in the pot to save, that we bring the return on investment. I think that's quite spectacular. And I think that's quite meaningful and it's quite important. So if we can be passionate, but you have the license to engage. You have the license to engage with your professors, with your chairs, with your deans, and ask them the question, how is your unit helping affordability on campus? And wait to see what they are going to say. They are going to tell you they are partnering with the library. Just ask them, how is that going? And if you see obstacles, please tell us. If they tell you we don't know, then ask them, can you get in touch with folks in the library and try to partner? Because we still are looking for more partners, and how can we build those relationships? I'm sorry that I'm going a little bit longer. I was hoping that somebody would ask that question. I'm glad that you did. I hope that helps.
All right, Senator Scharnhorst.
Yes, so I'm the president of a student organization that hosts events Saturday mornings. I was investigating the library as a potential venue and noticed that you're only open from 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturdays. Could you comment on why that's the case and when those hours might change?
That's a good question. Can I ask what organization is that?
It's the K-State Quiz Bowl Club.
Oh, right. Okay. Very good question. Ours are connected with budget. Budget is connected with all of us, how much money we have in the pot. For us to operate the library additional hour, it takes a significant amount of effort and staffing, and we need to figure it out. I would be open for further conversations, but I'm going to tell you that Saturday mornings tend to be very, very sparsely attended. This is based on the previous experience, but we're also testing and we are trying to figure it out. I'm happy to engage in these conversations and entertain this notion. But I would also like to ask a question. Is your organization perhaps potentially able to subsidize and help us with having some of those opening hours supported with a budget? I can tell you that we are running this ship on a very, very tight budget, and we are trying to figure it out how to help everybody out there. So potentially, if we can find a partnership and a solution how we can pay for folks who keep it open, if that makes sense. But I'm all open for this type of conversations.
Caucus Leader Lynn.
Do you have any numbers on like how many students per semester or per year are utilizing the open and alternative textbook program?
I don't have it right now, but I can share it with you. If you can give me the information, I can certainly connect you with folks who let me write your name down. So I can connect you with our coordinator who can provide you with the numbers, and then you can have a little bit more statistics beyond what is available on online. How does that sound?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right, any further questions? Chief of Staff Billman.
I was just wondering if you could give a number regarding how much was invested in the renovation of the library after the fire.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So thank you so much for asking that. My glasses are fogging. I apologize for that. If I keep my mask up, I cannot see you. Without mask, I cannot be here. So this was a silver lining. K-State was really lucky that we had insurance of these proportions and this caliber that we had when the fire happened in 2018. So the overall cost for the recovery and the renovation came close to $100 million for the library. So it's a really significant investment and reinvestment, and I hope you will utilize the space, and you're going to be proud once you're alumni and you're going to come and visit the library and say, what a spectacular library we have. Lots of that cost did pay for the recovery and reconstruction. So the recovery, all of our items, all of the books, every single object was taken outside of the building. They were first taken to Kansas City, and then from Kansas City they were taken to Texas to be cleaned and deionized, so all of the smoke was taken out of it so they can be brought back. Right now, when you pull the book and you smell it, whether it's full of smoke, it's not. It's really cleaned. Every single item has been cleaned, so it took really a long time. We still have hundreds of pallets of material that is still coming back. As I mentioned, supply chain that is holding us back on technology, and the furniture side, it's also holding us back on our bringing back all of the material. We are moving along. We are moving along pretty fast, and we are hoping to be really done by the end of this semester. So thank you so much for the question.
All right, are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time today.
Sorry to take.
All right, are there any further speakers tonight for first open period? Seeing none, we will now move into approval of.
Can I actually share something? I have some gifts. So I'm going to pass them around. If you can take one and pass this on. I'm going to send some this way, and then I'm going to go down there. So each of you will get a sticker from the library tonight.
Ooh, yes, thank you so much for that. All right, we will now go into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed along with the agenda and legislation tracking on Tuesday. I have a quick correction. Not for the minutes, but kind of for the agenda-ish. That little extra email I sent out with the votes from committee, that first vote from Senate Operations on Bill 10 was unfavorably 4-3-1, not 4-3-0. My mistake on that. But are there any questions or corrections for the minutes tonight? Seeing none, I will now seek a motion to approve the minutes. Senator Gann.
I move to approve the minutes. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes will now stand approved. With that, we'll move into our announcements for the week. So first, we have our COVID-19 information at the top. Our vaccination rate's still at 66%, so keep encouraging people to go get vaccinated. Additionally, I wanted to point out the Student Senate Interest Survey. Please take a moment to fill this out. This will really help me get people connected with what they're passionate about, as well as help me when I'm filling out the website. I have gotten more responses on that, so that's really encouraging. Please make sure to go fill that out, though, especially if you're a student senator. That is required, but anyone is welcome to fill it out otherwise. Additionally,
Booze.
Oh, thank you, Senator
Yeah,
Bruce.
I had a question about what in particular you were planning on putting on the website.
Oh, yeah. Your phone number won't go on the website, if that's what you're wondering. It's just email. Yeah, sorry.
Email.
Yeah, basically the kind of like your SGA intro with your email. So like your favorite smell will probably go on there to make it more personable.
Okay. Yeah, because when I filled it out, I wasn't expecting things to go on the website, so I wanted to know.
Awesome, cool, thanks. So yeah, please take a moment to fill that out. Additionally, headshots will be happening on Sunday, so please take a moment to fill out that Google Sheet. You can sign up for a headshot with our communications director, Rachel, so that you can have a nice professional headshot to use. These will also probably be the ones that go on the website too, so definitely take a moment to go and take those pictures. Next, our intern coordinators are accepting more referrals for the SGA intern program, so please reach out to either of them. Ashley really wanted me to emphasize this. She said to please refer at least 3 people for each of you. That was her challenge, and she told me to sound like Ashley when she did it, so I didn't do a very good job of that. But please fill that out nonetheless. Proxies for the week, we have Thomas for Bellamy, Bain for Doc, Insero for Croslow, Glasscock for Jambunathan, Richenberg for Dunlap, Willis Jackson for Carr, and Riffle for Coke. Then we have our Zoom request form, our Senate shout-out link there. And then our SGA member of the week this week is Senator Andrew Booz for all of his hard work on instant runoff voting over the past 3 years. Andrew has spent countless hours putting together a proposal for potentially changing our voting system. Thank you for your hard work on this effort and your continued dedication to students. If we could get a round of applause. Our quote of the week this week comes from Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. With that, we will now move into approval of appointments. Is there a motion on Resolution 25? Senator Booz.
I move to consider Resolution 25.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 25.
Sorry, I got to turn the page. Resolution 21, 22, 25, Education Opportunity Fund Committee appointment by Cameron Koger, sponsored by the Senate Ops Committee. Whereas the Education Opportunity Fund, EOF Committee, allocates funding for academic scholarships and fellowship, need-based grants, community service projects, and campus student service program. Whereas the Student Body Vice President appoints 4 students at large who represent different campus constituencies. Whereas the Student Body Vice President has already appointed August Liberty and Jeff Ebeck to this committee. Whereas to fill the remaining vacancies on the committee, Student Body Vice President appoints Peyton Lynn and Saurabh Mari. And whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Bylaws Article 4, Section 11, 3B states that Senate Op Committee shall introduce all resolutions of approval of appointments of the Student Body President, Speaker of the Senate, and Attorney General. Be it resolved that Section 1, the following individuals be approved as at-large members of the Education Opportunity Fund Committee, Peyton Lynn and Saurabh Mari.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author of Bill 25? Senator Scharnhorst.
Okay, I'm still not clear. Should line 4 say authors, or is it okay for it to say by?
Technically, I believe that would be authors.
That's still an author line. It is more clear if it says authors.
All right.
So that's more of a friendly amendment than it's an absolute requirement.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
All right, we'll make that change. Any further questions or corrections on Resolution 25? Seeing none, I will now seek a motion on Resolution 25. Senator Porter.
I move to approve Resolution 25 unanimously.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 25 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 25 will stand approved. All right, we'll move down the agenda into committee reports tonight. Are there any committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair Richenberg.
Okay, hey guys, vaccines thing still happening, still in progress. Another thing, since October, we have local elections coming up in November 2nd, right?
3rd.
November 3rd.
Tuesday, November 3rd.
Yep. And so, GR committee, we are going to probably work with our comms director, Rachel, to work on educating the student body on who's running. So basically the big positions are city commissioner, which Marcus has already talked about. But we're kind of going to give a rough bio of each candidate so students, if they are registered in Manhattan, can have a good idea and be educated about their vote. It's going to be nonpartisan, no favoritism. Sorry, Marcus. All love. Yeah, so I stand for questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Richenberg? Senator Scharnhorst.
Not a question. November 2nd is a Tuesday. So
Oh,
it is November
okay,
2nd.
sorry, I was right the first time. Sorry.
You're good, okay.
All right, November 2nd on Tuesday. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your report. Are there any other committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair, oh my gosh, May.
I just want to briefly give some information about Bill 212210 that we will be voting on later tonight, amendments to the KSU SGA Constitution regarding faculty administrator members. Originally, this was brought to Senate on Thursday, September 3rd, or no, that is not right, 23rd, sorry. It was referred to the Senate Operations Committee. On Tuesday, September 28th, we voted to refer it unfavorably, which failed 2 to 3 to 1. We voted to hold it in committee, which passed 6 to 0 to 0. The following Tuesday, which was this Tuesday, the 5th of October, we voted to refer it favorably. It failed 2 to 4 to 0. We voted to refer it with no recommendation, which failed 3 to 4 to 1. And finally, we voted to refer negatively, which passed 4 to 3 to 0. Just wanted to give you that background information so you understood that we really discussed it, and we really could not come to a consensus of whether we wanted to send it favorably or unfavorably. So when there is debate tonight, when you are voting tonight, please consider this.
All right, are there any questions for Chair May? Seeing none, Chair Salmon. I'm struggling.
This is really brief. I just want to mention KS Unite is happening on Tuesday the 12th, I believe. If you haven't heard about it, it's a really cool event where we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging at K-State. And I would highly recommend going. I know teachers this year aren't required to let their students out, but they're highly recommended. So I think if you email your teachers and stuff and be like, hey, I want to go to this, they should theoretically allow you to attend that. So I think it's a really cool event, and I plan on attending myself.
All right, are there any questions for Chair Salmon? Seeing none, thank you for your report. Are there any further committee chairs who would like to make a report tonight? Are there any directors who would like to make a report tonight? Chief of Staff Billman.
All right, good evening, everyone. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Maggie Billman. I'm serving as our Chief of Staff in the executive branch this year, so I'm happy to be here with you all tonight. I have quite a few things to go over, so I will try to keep each item brief, and I'll stand for questions at the end if you need me to elaborate further. So some things that have happened in the past week. Michael chairs our ILC committee, our Intercultural Leadership Council committee. Is that right? Okay, cool. So last week they met with President Myers as well as K-State Chief of Police, Ronnie Grice. The conversation really surrounded making K-State a more inclusive space, and yeah, just building relationships and valuing multiculturalism here at K-State. On Tuesday night, there was a protest regarding sexual assault on campus. Around 100 students attended that. It was a really good turnout and had some interesting dialogue at the beginning, and then we ended up on President Myers' lawn. Mixed feelings around that. We had some good dialogue with the president afterward and followed up with some ideas. A group of us met after that meeting and came up with a consolidated list of action items. I'll share a couple of those, and then I'll give you an invite here in just a second. So some highlights. The potential of creating some sort of educational module regarding sexual assault prevention, similar to ASAP training, but separate, because we want to sort of like destigmatize that sexual violence can only happen when alcohol is present. That's not true. Sexual violence can happen anytime. So in terms of, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. A lot of the conversation on, not a lot of, a portion of the conversation at the protest had to do with Greek life, quote, reaffiliation. The word reaffiliation doesn't really make any sense. Kelly has informed me. She could probably provide some more insight on that. But I just want to encourage everyone that this is a complex issue. And it's not, frankly, it's not the silver bullet to solving sexual violence on our campus. Everyone has their own opinions on it, so I'm going to try to leave mine out of it. But students need to understand that this is a complex issue. It regards everything from, for example, Greek houses being on board and being willing to come back and collaborate with the university. They are private institutions, after all, and they, at the end of the day, get to make their own decisions. And it comes down to all sorts of legal jargon. And as far as even logos go, it's a complex issue. So I think that students have really oversimplified this issue in their minds and think that it could be, a silver bullet to an incredibly complex issue. So I would encourage everyone to look at this through the lens of patience. I would also encourage everyone, I had some conversations with folks this week regarding what goes on in Greek life. A lot of Greek houses have sexual assault prevention training on a regular basis. So those are safe places to go on our campus. There are good people who are in there, and so I would just like to sort of stray away from the idea that that is a simple solution to a complex issue. I've said that a lot. Just really increasing student awareness of the process on that, as well as the committee that's sort of overseeing just all policy for student organizations. Currently it's not that big of a committee. It doesn't have too many student representatives on that, so Kelly and I talked a little bit about it, but hoping to increase student representation on that tentatively. Kelly has a lot more information on it, and some changes there could be happening. Moving on, more action items from the protest. Advocating for prevention specialist Jessica Hinault's position. That's currently funded through some SGA funds, and we want to advocate to administration that that's an important thing that should be permanently funded. So that's something that we want. What else? Gosh, just recognizing that we have a complex administration structure and that students need to understand the appropriate parties to go to advertising there. There are a list of probably 15. Oh, also another thing that I'll mention, just advertising resources that are available to survivors of sexual violence or domestic violence. So maybe some sort of social media campaign or putting flyers in the back of bathrooms. I'm sorry, I'm not being eloquent tonight. A list of 15 different things. If you're interested in learning more about these, please email me. We will also be meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in the CSI conference room to create some sort of perhaps resolution. I've already been in contact with President Myers and Dr. Lane and Linda Cook and a few other important administrators regarding this list. But this is a campus-wide issue, and so I hope that this can be an SGA-wide issue as well that we can all get behind and make some sort of formal recommendation to our administrators. Moving on, student services fee. I'm probably the least equipped person in the room to talk about this, but we are at a $2 million deficit. You want me to not talk about that?
No, you're fine. You're going to address it here.
Okay, great. They'll talk about it more. Essentially, $1 million's going to tentatively come from bond surplus. $1 million's going to tentatively come from callbacks. All entities were invited to send in an impact statement, and those will come in next Monday. They'll talk about it more. What else? We had a meeting with some folks from the foundation as far as like real estate goes on campus. We had a lot of really interesting conversations. Their names were Kate Ryan and Greg Lawrence, if you recognize any of those names. A lot of our conversations surrounded the alumni village, monetizing resources on campus, the potential of building sort of a teaching hotel for our like hospitality management students, which I think would be a really interesting thing, as well as the potential of implementing a philanthropically funded meal plan scholarship. If you have any questions about any of this specifically, let me know. A lot of really interesting stuff we talked about there. The foundation does so much cool stuff that we don't see, so it was a really great meeting to have. A shameless plug, the Student Technology Committee, if you're interested in serving on that, Nathan Bonts, our technology director, sort of helps out with that and oversees that. We're looking for representation from each college to further communication with Gary Pratt, our head of IT and chief information officer. Yes. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Ooh, what else? There will be a special KBOR Student Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow morning that President Dowd will be attending. That will be regarding sexual assault prevention across all KBOR entities. If you don't know what KBOR is, it's the Kansas Board of Regents. So like all of the state-funded schools, so like us, KU, Pitt State, Fort Hays State, that you hear of that are funded by the Kansas government. Yeah. Another, okay, I'll just move to coming up announcements. KS Unite Tuesday, be there. We'll be going. If you want someone to sit with, reach out. We're having a meeting with Myrta Chavez tomorrow to talk about multiculturalism and how to increase representation in student government, frankly, and how we can build relationships with multicultural student organizations. We'll be meeting with Town Gown tomorrow. That is the committee that meets to connect SGA and students with the city of Manhattan. We'll talk about lots of cool stuff there. And then on Tuesday, the Tuition and Fees Strategies Committee will be listening to the College of Business Administration's presentation. So yeah, I think that's all I have. I'm so sorry that was so much. Please let me know what questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Chief of Staff Billman?
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Are there any further directors tonight who would like to make a report? President Dowd.
Hi all. President Dowd and I are sharing a report tonight to give you all a little bit more context on the state of the student services fee. And as you all might have heard from entity directors earlier this week, the reason we're doing this jointly is because we have initiated another round of the insufficient funds process. And so we will explain what all of that means. For some initial context, last year, for those of you who are in Senate, might remember the first rounds of insufficient funds. That is a process that the Student Services Fee Committee and the Student Body President, Speaker of the Senate, and Student Services Fee Committee Chair enact that mirrors the university callback process. And that is initiated when we have a deficit of funds that we are basically unable to fill from our reserves. And so last year was the first year that we had to implement that process, largely because of COVID. When the university switched to mostly online classes, based on the old university budget model, we were not able to assess student services fees on online classes. That resulted in a $4 million deficit that was unprecedented, does not come close to describing it in the history of the student services fee. Back then, the privilege fee, and the first two rounds of callbacks, of insufficient funds callbacks, were initiated and carried out by Tell, Hannah, and Nate last year. And so where we are at this year, we were really hoping, coming into this school year, that we passed a new university budget model. We are able to assess student services fees on online classes. We are hoping that issue would go away. Unfortunately, we're up here tonight to inform you that the issue did not go away. We bounced back much more, we don't have a $4 million deficit, but like Maggie said, we have a $2 million deficit. And so factors that go into that is mostly enrollment decline. And you might be thinking, $2 million. There's no way that we lost a freshman class's worth of $2 million in fee allocations. And you're exactly right. Thanks to Cameron's amazing snake analogy last week at Senate, he informed you all how enrollment is a 4-year issue. And so we get hit on both ends when we have a large class graduate and a small class incoming. That, along with the fact that the fee was lowered last year, is, a catch-22. The benefit is that students are paying less, and that is something that we all have to remember and kind of keep in mind. The downside of that is that definitely contributed a little bit to our current deficit. And so that is where we are at now. And so I'm going to let Michael talk a little bit about the insufficient funds process and timeline and what our three's role is in deciding what those callback recommendations are going to be.
Okay, very cool. And just like Chair Harmon mentioned, this process was initiated on this Monday when we sent out those initial emails to entity directors regarding the current status and regarding the tier that those entities were placed in. And so Chair Harmon, Speaker Phillips, and I, we all got together and really developed which tiers each entity needed to be in. And then from there, Max sent out the emails on Monday. So we're giving 2 weeks for that process to totally take place. And we're going to be requesting to have all of our impact statements for all entities given to us by Friday, October 15th. Also going to send out a reminder email in between there. On Sunday, the three of us will sit down and really develop just essentially reading those impact statements, making those value judgments, and like in turn creating those final decisions on our end as far as each entity and how much in callbacks we'll be requesting from them. And then from there, we move into the next week, so Monday, October 18th, really bringing that forward to the Student Services Fee Committee and making those decisions from the committee. So the committee can either approve or recommend unfavorably the recommendations in which we've put forward for each entity. And so from there, it'll be submitted for the agenda on that same Monday, hopefully right after, and then introduced into Senate on the 21st and voted on in final action on the 28th. So the reason why this process looks really interesting and is happening now instead of last semester is that we just found out about enrollment last week or 2 weeks ago. And so that leads for a really tricky situation in the fact that we were allocating money that we didn't have the full story on enrollment yet. And that also speaks to an overall trend when it comes to the student services fee, is the fact that the way that it is set up with the 3-year contracts is that we are allocating money that we don't know the full story as far as what our revenue sources will actually look like. And just to also give a holistic outlook on the student services fee, the fee itself has increased about $100 since over the last 10 years. On top of that, our revenue source has declined since 2015. I can't tell you the exact average rate, but typically it's between 1, 2 to 5% every single year. And of course, we saw the largest of those declines happen because of COVID. On top of that, the total amount allocated for the fee has remained relatively unchanged until last year. Besides about 1 or 2 years of about a 2% decline, every single year has remained about the same. And so that's kind of the situation, and the long-term sense of it is that we have gotten to the point where we've eased the pressure by increasing the total amount of the fee that we're charging each student and haven't reached this backstop of getting to the point where we can't increase that anymore. Just to give a little bit more context, K-Board, which Maggie spoke about in her report, Kansas Board of Regents, they actually approve all of our tuition and fees processes every single year. And have made it very, 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 very clear that they will not be proposing or accepting any type of increases that colleges put forward. KU had an increase to their student health services fee, and I can't remember the exact amount, but even though it was a student-focused fee and students had approved it, they still voted it down and did not allow them to actually instate that fee. So just the current situation. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Would love to chat individually with anyone who has questions along the way.
All right, are there any questions tonight? Senator Blood.
Why did the fee go down from last year to this year?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. The main theme of last year was ensuring that the fee was revenue neutral. And so because we had to make so many cuts and really try and stop the bleeding in the sense of our expenditures, we also wanted to use that as kind of leverage to give KBOR that final push to approve the fee that we had. So in the long run, I think that positioning allowed us to get it through as fast as we could, because it kind of was the carrot that allowed them to jump on that and remained. It essentially meant that we could remain revenue neutral and not have a total profit in that. Anything to add on that?
No, that was pretty good.
Okay.
Any further questions tonight? Seeing none, please feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions at any time. I know this is a really important issue and really big decisions that are being made, and we want all of your opinions as much as possible. So thank you all very much. Are there any further directors tonight who would like to make a report? Seeing none, we will now continue on down the agenda into final action.
Alrighty, thanks so much, Blake. Senator Blood.
Point of order, how many senators do we have in attendance right now?
We have 41 senators present, but that won't be relevant to what it takes to pass this piece of legislation. That is because it's a constitutional amendment, so we require 3/4 of all senators qualified. That number right now is 36 senators. I assume that's where you were going with that. Sorry, I jumped a lot. Senator Lynn.
And that is including proxies, correct?
That is correct, yes. Alrighty.
Yeah, we need 36 votes for this to pass, and we have 41 people who can, 41 votes here? Or we have 41?
We have 41 senators present. We need 36 of those present to vote in support, if we want it to pass. Leader Lynn.
If there are 40, you said 41 senators present, how many total votes do we have present, including the proxies?
That's a good question.
Yeah. We have 6 proxies right now, so 47.
47 votes present?
47 votes.
Alrighty. Thanks so much, Blake. Have any changes been made?
No changes have been made.
Alrighty, fantastic.
All right, I'm not going to take up too much of your time today, everyone, because I feel like this bill is pretty simple and is relatively an inconsequential piece of legislation. So I kind of wanted to just give a little bit more background on why this legislation is put forward to remove faculty senators from Student Senate. So back when the school year started, I asked Faculty Senate for a representative for Student Senate because they have a position. They ended up declining due to good communication between our body and theirs, as well as the fact that they had not sent anyone in a long time. In fact, I haven't met anyone who can actually remember when the last time we had a Faculty Senate representative was. So at that point, I told Faculty Senate that I would consider removing this seat in order to reflect our current operations because it had been such a long time. And they told me that this was fine and offered to have a faculty member present at any point in time if we were to ever so request one for a faculty opinion. I ended up bringing this up to Dr. Lane, who also holds a designee seat in Student Senate. And Dr. Lane actually suggested to me, number one, that we do this, but number two, that we add on his seat to this to remove from Student Senate, since we already have really good communication between our two bodies. So in my opinion, this bill is inconsequential and honestly should be a house cleaning procedure in order to reflect our long-standing practices of Student Governing Association. I want to take a moment before the debate ensues to point out our advisor, Kelly Ferris, back there. Kelly here is a non-voting member and our advisor who is able to provide insight potentially on the faculty and staff voice and how any decisions in these bodies may affect what happens there. This, combined with the ability for us to request a faculty member to be present from Faculty Senate, when necessary, honestly, in my opinion, satisfies the faculty voice in Student Senate so that we aren't losing anything by passing this piece of legislation. Additionally, this piece of legislation, in my opinion, is so inconsequential that not once did anyone reach out to me yet this semester asking why we did not have any faculty senators in Student Senate. So in my opinion, if faculty voice is something that we cannot lose right now at this moment, why were we okay without it since the beginning of April during this term? So your decision tonight should be a simple one. In a world where this bill passes, Student Senate will still have access to faculty voice in Student Senate. Faculty members have asked that I remove their seats from Student Senate, and all that this bill is doing is fulfilling that request. There will be no detriment seen after this bill passes, just as there's been no detriment seen in the years since these positions have been vacant. So thank you all very much for your time.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Blake. Since that was the first speech in the positive, we will now entertain speeches in the negative. Senator Booz.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I wanted to begin this speech by thanking Kelly Ferris, who is currently the only faculty member in the room, and by thanking every other faculty member who has taken the time to be with us. It was weird reading my initial idea for this speech because I was actually less certain than I am now as to whether this bill was a good idea or not. I'm actually fairly certain that it is not at this time. But I actually have done this sort of thing before, lots of times, cleaned up stuff in the Constitution, bylaws, statutes, whatever. And yet I do think that we should not be doing this yet. And I would vote no at this time for a couple of different reasons. The first one is that I believe that having their student senate being able to have seats for faculty senators is kind of a form of student senate power to an extent. Now, that's the thing, right? Like, why you say why that was power? Why would that be power? Why would that be relevant to student senate? But it is, because that allows kind of requires, in some instance, faculty to be here, and that would allow us to have more information from them in situations where we want faculty input, like on the various calendar proposals we had last year for the the calendar proposals for the wellness days. We had all indications were that administration supported it. All indications were from the people that we normally talk to in Faculty Senate, that is Faculty Senate leadership, that they supported it. But I believe if we had had a Faculty Senate member, that would have been helpful. Additionally, I believe that there's a benefit to having people who are a minority come to different places and be able to present their opinions and vote on those. For instance, we are always a minority when we're going to Faculty Senate, and we keep going ourselves to other places while we are discussing with only one person who is not a student in the room. And I think that isn't necessarily good. I think it's important to have other perspectives in the room, perspectives that vary with age, with gender, with skin color, with so many perspectives, and we are intentionally deciding to get rid of our ability to say that we want one perspective in the room. And so I think that instance is beneficial, and I think we could do more to say, hey, we actually do want this in the room instead of not, and instead of just cleaning it up like it's irrelevant. The other thing is that, so yeah, I mean, overall, like, you know, there's a lot of questions in committee. There was a lot of debate in committee. And like, I'm not against this if we can absolutely prove that no one wants to be here from Faculty Senate or from administration. But this has existed for a long time. Actually, looking through today, I saw a reference to this in 1969. So they may have created it then. It definitely exists by the 1980s. And I'm not sure how much representation we had, but it was definitely some. So all I'm saying is we should work to still have that input, still have that voice, still have that vote even, although I'm maybe more okay with getting rid of the vote. But I do want more than just one person's opinion of what faculty
and administration is thinking when we're discussing these sorts of bills. So I urge you to, at this moment, vote no or vote to send this back to committee.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that debate, Andrew. I will now entertain speeches in the positive. Senator Scharnhorst.
The previous speaker neglected to note that not only, so faculty members could be a valuable voice to have more of in this Senate. I agree with that. However, it's not just the case that they aren't coming, and it's not just the case that there is no one filling that position. It's the case that they refuse to appoint anyone. And because of that, I think if you take it to be true that the governing document should reflect operations, then you absolutely should vote yes on this bill. Because faculty voices have to be invited, not requested in our governing documents. So if we want more faculty voices, we need to invite them as open period speakers, not as members in the body.
Thank you so much for that debate, Gus. I will now entertain speeches in the negative. Chair Harmon.
I'll defer to Senator Blood for now.
Oh, okay. Senator Blood.
I mainly wanted to add that in committee, we had decided to hold this. And while the first motion we had did fail to refer it unfavorably, that was mainly due to discussion that we had had about the ability to keep it in committee, keep it in the process of the Senate Operations Committee, and allow us to continue to discuss on ways that we could bring those faculty and administration voices in a more active role here in Student Senate. As a previous speaker mentioned, we talked a lot about bringing people here when they're the minority, instead of us going to our faculty and administration when we're always in the minority. And while we have some areas where we can include that, we wanted to make sure it was abundantly clear what those processes were in our governing documents and build that work together. However, we were then instructed to refer this back to this body so you could have that ability. And while we can decide to vote this yes or no and then have the college caucuses review it, in my mind, sending it back to Senate Ops and allowing the Senate Operations Committee to come up with an actual solution to the problem, something that pleases both faculty senate and the needs of the student body to have representation and to have the voices heard, such as when we have conflicts with our body, with faculty senate, and they need to come and explain it to our students. And then we can come back and remove this from our governing documents. But until we have that solution, I don't feel personally and do not think that it is right for us to go ahead and remove it from our governing documents until that solution has been provided.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that debate, Brian. We will now entertain a speech in the positive. Leader Lynn.
Okay, I think we've all made it very clear that Faculty Senate has avidly declined to fill their seats for several years now. And this is due to the vast amount of open communication that we have between Student Senate and our faculty members. In response to some previous speakers' comments about having a faculty senator perspective and how important that is, sure, yeah, that's important to have that open line of communication. However, that would require a faculty member to show up in the first place. If they have those seats and then either refuse to fill them or have the seats and decide not to show up, then that line of communication stays exactly where it is, which is at the moment just fine. And having that seat continue to be there, left unfilled or not being used properly, is simply kind of irrelevant, and it doesn't matter that they are there or not there. Say we continue to give them seats, and eventually they say, "Fine, we'll appoint someone. We'll put someone in there." The thing is that they may decide in that case that they'll fill the seat, but then never show up to Senate. That means when we have a debate, much like the one that we're having tonight, that requires a 3/4 vote to put something through, that's 3/4 of the senators that are sworn in already, and those empty seats count against us every single time. So when we have such a good line of open communication with Faculty Senate already, and they're refusing to actually send someone here and represent themselves, I see no reason to continue having that seat when it could harm us in the future more than it's actually going to help us. So I urge you to vote yes on this bill.
Thank you for that, Peyton. I will now entertain a speech in the negative. Chair Hartman.
Good evening, all. I'm speaking more from my interest as a past parliamentarian and a member of Senate Ops and somebody who cares a lot more than probably the average person should about governing documents. I just have a couple of thoughts. I'm speaking in the negative about this bill for a number of reasons. First, to address some of the concerns, I fully recognize Faculty Senate's unwillingness to fill the current seat. However, as I'm about to probably outline, I think that the number of advantages that us keeping the documents as they are far outweighs the extremely, extremely small probability of the scenario where they choose to first fill the seat and then vacate it, and then we actually have a bill that hurts us. So that's kind of premise one. Premise two is that documents should reflect operations as they should be, not change to reflect what they are. That is definitely something I believe generally. I think this exists for a reason, and it is very unfortunate that that is not the way it is right now, but that's not a reason to change it. That definitely doesn't follow in my train of logic of reasons to change governing documents. And that kind of feeds into the third one, is that the reason we shouldn't change governing documents without solid reasoning is that the written processes will outlast any status quo. And so we have a line of communication open with Faculty Senate right now, but all of us are gonna be gone in 4 or 5 years. And so there's the only thing that provides continuity between phases within SGA is the governing documents and word of mouth passed on. And so I definitely think that changing governing documents is a matter of seriousness. And the reason why I think this outweighs and why it should stay in the governing documents is that symbolism matters. I think it is really important that we at least have that invitation extended. I think it shows a really important thing about things that we value at Kansas State, and it's the things that we talk about all the time. It's the things that we get to brag about at Big 12 conference, and that our SGA leadership get to come back and brag to us about how we are so much better than the other Big 12 or any other peer institution's SGAs, and it's for that issue of shared governance. And I think this is an important part of that. I really don't think that Faculty Senate choosing not to fill this seat hurts us in any significant way, but I think it sends a strong message that we have that seat there, and that, frankly, we kind of expect that seat to be filled. I'm really disappointed that it's not. I think that's another line of work and some good deeds that we can all try and work on and build that relationship, and maybe they fill that someday. But I think at the end of the day, we definitely shouldn't just change governing documents because things are working out poorly right now. I think we should work to make the current status quo towards the ideal of governing documents.
Thank you so much for that debate, Max. We will now go back to speeches in the positive. Senator Porter.
Good evening, everyone. Just to reiterate some things that previous speakers have said, this is a question that has been asked and answered of Faculty Senate and of representatives of Student Life many times. This bill would not be up here for debate if this was something that was still kind of up in the air. It's been asked and answered, and the answer is no. There's no universe in which they're going to send representatives to Student Senate, so we might as well get rid of their seats because, as the previous speaker mentioned, it does affect our ability to pass legislation if they decide to fill that seat, and then the person that holds that seat just doesn't ever show up to Senate, which would be likely to happen because they don't ever come to Senate now. Additionally, there's no enforcement mechanism for this. Don't let anyone try to trick you into thinking that there is. There's no way for us to subpoena a member of faculty. There's no SGA jail. We can't send the police to drag them into the chamber. There's just no way to make them come. So however much you want them to come, there's no way to force them to. So there's no reason to have this requirement in the Constitution when there's no way for us to make sure that it actually happens. Additionally, we have a faculty representative when we want one, but I challenge you to think of a time in this term or past terms that you have wanted a representative of the faculty here and they weren't here. And going into the future, if you want a member of faculty here, ask someone to be here, invite them to speak during open period, yield your speaking time to them if you really feel that passionately about it. But I can't think of a time in the past term, and I challenge you to think of a time in previous terms when you wanted someone from faculty or student life here and they weren't. I don't think any of you can think of one, and please reach out to me if you can. Additionally, it's not as if faculty members lose their ability to address us. Like I said, if there's a particularly important issue, they can come and speak during open period. Any of you can invite them. You can talk to Blake about it. You can talk to Nick about it. They can come and talk to us if there's something that they feel particularly strongly about. But as I said, they haven't felt that in the past, in the beginning of this term and in past terms, I don't know. I can't speak to that because I wasn't present, but as I said, think about it, and I think the answer you'll come up with is no. Additionally, did any of you even notice that there weren't any members of faculty here before this bill was introduced? I would measure a guess that a huge chunk of you would not even have known that Faculty Senate had an option to have a seat in Senate until this piece of legislation was introduced. So their absence had no impact on you, and their absence going into the future will also not have any impact on you if you weren't even thinking about it to begin with. Finally, well, not finally, but Ops was really divided on this issue. I'd like to reiterate what Director May said during her committee report, that the final vote on this ended up being 4 to 3 to 1, and that actually had to be a tie that was broken. So the committee was extremely divided on this. So this is something that a lot of people really care about, as you can see by the number of speeches that have been given. But don't let that division sort of represent that we're confused. We all know what we think, and I hope that you as senators know what you think, and that you can make the correct decision when voting for this. And I think that correct decision is voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you for that debate, Evan. We will now return to speeches in the negative.
Can I ask a point of information from
Yes.
the author? Yeah, so my question is, what is the process of putting faculty into Faculty Senate? Is it a requirement for faculty? Do they volunteer? How are they put in?
So for faculty representing on Faculty Senate, they have elections just like we do.
It's longer terms, correct?
Yeah, the terms are, I believe, 3 years for Faculty Senate.
Granted.
Is it a requirement that faculty has to serve at least one term?
No, there is no requirement for them to serve.
Alrighty, thanks for that question, Aaron. Are there any speeches in the negative? Okay, seeing none, we will now return to speeches in the positive. Senator Dumont.
Hi, I am also on the Ops Committee, and I just want to be completely honest in that I was very divided when we first started talking about this. I honestly see this in both lights, as previous speakers have mentioned, both in the positive and in the negative. But one thing I really want to point out is while a previous speaker has mentioned that this gives us some sort of power to have Faculty Senate here, I wanted to make it known that we have checked their constitution, and they do not have anything written in their constitution that makes them have to fill a seat within Student Senate. So I think that's super important to look at going forward, because even though we may have a requirement for them to be here, they do not have a requirement for themselves to be here. So it's honestly kind of like a previous speaker had said, it's almost impossible for us to actually make them be here. So I personally think this legislation we should be voted yes on, because really it's not really doing anything right now because we can't force anybody to be here.
Thanks for that debate, Ellie. We will now return to speeches in the negative. Senator Boot. Wait, sorry. Senator Rook.
All
right. All I'll say is that we should strive for excellence in the way that government should be handled. It doesn't matter if they don't have a requirement to be here. We should leave that open for them for some that might want to be here in the future. That's all I'll say. It's pretty simple for me.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate. We'll now go back to speeches in the positive. Chair Richenberg.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came up here and debate. I appreciate all your opinions and all the perspectives that you guys brought to the podium. I do just want to reiterate something that previous speakers who have debated in the positive had talked about, and it's just because we're possibly getting rid of Faculty Senate does not mean that their voice is gone. There are millions of different ways that we can give them a voice. One example is giving your speaking rights to a Faculty Senate member or faculty member, period. You're able to do that as a senator. You can give your speaking rights to anyone that you please. So they will always have a voice as long as they have a senator willing to give them their speaking rights. I would all like to note that some previous speakers have talked about the word yet. We shouldn't do this yet. But when do we draw the line between doing it now, but it's not time yet? Like, where is that line? I think over 4 years is enough to say that it's time that we need to do something about this. Yeah, I think perspective is important. I understand where everyone is concerned that we might lose that perspective, but if it's a perspective that doesn't necessarily has told us that they're not going to be here, then is it really a perspective that we're gaining or losing if they're not here? Just something to think about. But yeah, I urge you to vote yes.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Marta. We will now return to speeches in the negative. Senator Riffle.
Point of information.
Of course.
Author. From a historical perspective, do we know when the last time the seat was filled, if it was?
Yeah, so Marcus, you've been here longer than I have. I will let you answer that.
Yeah, so I believe it was 2 years ago. Rebecca Adams was the last person in that position. And just more to context, I work in the movie theater, as some of you may know. When I saw her there, when I asked her, why aren't you in faculty, or why aren't you serving as a faculty rep for Senate? She just mentioned that she can't because she's teaching classes at that time, or at this time. So, like, she would be here if she wasn't already teaching. That was just her assignment that her department had changed for her. So, otherwise, I think she would be here.
Thank you, Marcus.
Alrighty.
Point of
Can I address that as
for the speaker, or perhaps Marcus?
Sorry, Andrew, do you have something more to add?
Yeah, so that's the Faculty Senate, correct? Okay, so for administration, the last person to be in that seat and be appointed by the Director for Student Life was Justin Frederick. And he was here through the end of last term.
Alrighty, thanks, Andrew. Senator Insero.
Yeah, this is a question for Nick. Maybe Marcus might be, or for Blake, but maybe Marcus might be a better person to answer it. Have we ever formally asked them to fill? Like, I know that maybe, like, have we ever passed a resolution saying, hey, we'd really like you to be here?
So via resolution, no. I made sure to reach out to them, I believe it was like the first or second day of school, really emphasizing that we wanted them to. And so that was the request for presence, essentially.
Alrighty. Senator Prester, do you have a question or a?
I was going to move to call for this question.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, that motion is in order. We can do a quick, hand raise vote. So all in favor of moving on the previous question to vote on this legislation, please raise your placards now.
Just to close debate.
Yes, to close debate. Thank you, Andrew. And please place your placards down. Any opposed? Okay, so I'm not quite sure that we're meeting 2/3. I'm going to do a quick roll call vote. Sorry, Andrew, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm going to call for division.
Okay. So this will be super quick. First, Bain.
Yes.
And sorry, yes means you're voting in support of the previous question. No means you're voting against it and you want to continue debate. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
No.
Bellamy.
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes.
Blood.
No.
Booze.
No.
Brummett. Kahlo. Carr. Chapas,
Yes.
Compton,
No.
Croslow,
Yes by proxy.
Cunningham, DeMott,
Yes.
Doc,
Yes, by proxy.
Dunlap,
Yes, by proxy.
Encero,
Yes.
Esslinger,
Yes.
Buss,
Yes.
Gann,
Yes.
Glasscock,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Hotzel,
Yes.
Jambunathan,
Yes by proxy.
Kidd,
No.
Koch,
No by proxy.
Kramer,
No.
Lister,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Lynn,
No.
Marquez, May,
No.
Mayor,
Yes.
McPhee,
Yes.
Meadow,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pineda Gomez,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Prester,
Yes.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Riffle,
No.
Rook,
Yes.
Salmon,
No.
Scharnhorst,
No.
Shear,
No.
Splekel,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Volgamore,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Willis Jackson,
Yes.
and Willis Reese. Okay, this might be close. Okay, on a vote of 34 to 14 to 0, out of 32 votes required, the motion to the previous question passes. So we'll now proceed into a roll call vote on the legislation. So to start, Bain,
Yes.
Bannister, Barron,
Is pass an option? Yes.
yes, pass is an option.
Pass.
Bellamy,
Yes, by proxy.
Binkley,
No.
Blood,
No.
Booze,
No.
Brummett. All right, thanks. Kahlo, Carr,
Pass by proxy.
Chapas,
Yes.
Compton,
No.
Croslow,
Yes by proxy.
Cunningham, DeMott,
Yes.
Doc,
Yes, by proxy.
Dunlap,
Yes, by proxy.
Encero,
No.
Esslinger,
No.
Fuss,
Yes.
Gann,
Pass.
Glasscock,
No.
Holland,
No.
Hotzel,
No.
Jambunathan,
Yes by proxy.
Kidd,
No.
Koch,
No by proxy.
Kramer,
Yes.
Lister,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Marquez, May,
No.
Mayor,
No.
McPhee,
Yes.
Meadow,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pineda Gomez,
No.
Porter,
Yes.
Prester,
Yes.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Riffle,
No.
Rook,
No.
Salmon,
Yes.
Scharnhorst,
Yay.
Shear,
No.
Splekel,
Yes.
Stout,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Volgamore,
No.
Wallace,
Yes.
Warren,
No.
Willis Jackson,
No.
and Willis Reese. Okay. On a vote of 25 to 21, that does not have enough votes to sustain what is required for a constitutional amendment, so it fails.
All right. And with that, we will now move into Bill 21-2212. Will the author please come forward? Chair Long.
Point of order, we didn't go back.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I don't think it's gonna matter.
Continue through that as a matter of order. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, yes, we're going to proceed through the passes. Barron. Brummett. Kahlo. Carr.
Abstain for proxy.
Gann.
Yes.
Marquez. Okay, so sorry to make that mistake. It still does fail.
26 to 22 to 1. 26 to 22 to 1. Yeah.
All right. With that, the author of Bill 21-2212, will the author please come forward?
So that's my other thing.
I was not as polished as I wanted to be in my other speech, but I hope I can be more polished on this one. So this bill is really because of massively controversial elections we had in 2018 and 2019. After those elections, with both featured disqualifications, both featured accusations all over, especially I remember the 2019 one because I was here. The 2018 SGA in the last meeting of their term challenged the future SGAs to figure out the most equitable process for conducting elections, and especially SGA elections. At the time of that passage, I was an intern, and my name was on the bill. And this is the culmination of what I believe to be a more equitable, more efficient, and better way of using and going through our presidential elections. This is, I believe, the most well-drafted bill I've worked on, and it's got input from a whole bunch of different people. Now, I could go through a whole bunch of different things about it, but I'm really not sure how much debate there's going to be. I'm not sure if there's going to be any in the negative. We'll see after this. And so I just decided to hit the highlights of what does this bill do and what does it result in for our next election seasons going forward. And I believe that there's two main categories of benefits. First, are the benefits that come from the ability to replace the primary and only have one election in general. And then are the benefits that come from implementing instant runoff voting specifically, as opposed to just having an election where the most votes wins or whatever. First, I want to go over the benefits of replacing the primary and having only one election. I believe that that would make it much easier to encourage people to vote. As I showed last week, there is a consistent increase in the number of general election votes over the number of primary election votes in every year without a disqualification. And I believe that it would be easy for presidential campaigns and senatorial campaigns to make sure that people vote once instead of twice. That will help us improve our elections regulations. I would be willing to say that there will be an increase in the average in the next 5 years, including this year, of the people who vote compared to the last 5 years, excluding 2018 and 2019, because those are quite weird. The second thing is decreased complexity in our election statutes, because we can strip out all of the things regarding the primary election. That'll decrease the size, and it'll also decrease the number of different things people have to read and have to comply with regarding the presidential election. Additionally, it would be decreased work for the elections commissioner overall. This year might be a little different because you'll have to get people used to the idea. But overall, since you're only running one election and only have one election's worth of violations and stuff to respond to, I believe that that would help in future years. But I do believe that eliminating the primary without a different system really wouldn't help. This system was put in place in around 2002, and as far as I can tell, it was put in place because there was a whole bunch of people where they were winning without a majority of the votes. And that's why they initially passed a runoff system where you'd have the general election and then have a runoff if there was no majority, and then they converted it to the primary system we have. And so we still need a system which will make sure that the person who wins or the ticket who wins is supported by a majority of the voters. And that's what IRV does. It gives people who like third or fourth choice candidates the ability to still kind of indicate what preference they have between whoever ends up being the top two. You saw that happen last week in the example where a whole bunch of votes were, a whole lot of preferences were moved to the top two candidates. And it did come down to between the top two candidates before you got a majority of ballots. And so because it gives those people some say in what preferences they have, and it makes sure that people have, like, the person who wins has a majority of the ballots that are still in play, it also creates an incentive for flexible coalition building and flexible and positive campaigning. And so I believe, because you need to vote the people who will first choose other candidates and other tickets. So overall, like, I believe that this is the best system we could implement right now, and I would urge you to vote yes for this piece of legislation.
Thank you for your debate, Andrew. Are there any debate, or is there any debate in the negative on Bill 12? 12. Yep, 12. Yikes. Is there any additional debate in the positive for Bill 12? Is there any debate? Oh, sorry, Director Colburn.
Okay, I'm honestly a little surprised that there wasn't debate in the negative, so maybe things have changed. But when we first passed the resolution and first started talking about IRV, it was really unpopular. I think we sent it back to committee, Andrew? Yeah, so we sent it back to committee, so I guess I'm interested to see how this vote is going to go. Maybe people will vote no just without debating. That's fine too. But I do want to talk a little bit more about this because I think Andrew covered Senator Boo's former speaker. Sorry, a little out of practice in the Senate. Covered a lot of the importance to why we should do it at K-State and kind of how it's relevant to this body. But something as a political science major, which I know a disproportionate amount of us in this room are, but I still think it's important to talk about, is that IRV is really important and good for democracy. At least how Americans view it. And so it's really odd that we don't do it. And in fact, that's changing really rapidly. So I just want to talk a little bit about that. And why this is important, I think, why I am especially passionate about IRV and our student body elections, is I think that student body elections teach students how to be civically engaged. And I think the fact that we have such low turnout for our elections is a really good indicator in why we have such low turnout in the local elections that are inevitably going to be dismal turnout effects in November. And we also have low turnout in our student body elections. I think these things are all related and they all build off each other. So I think this is a really good learning opportunity for students that means more than maybe we think it does, even though I'm sure we all in this room think it means a whole lot, but people outside of this room might not. Anyway, it's a really good learning opportunity, and IRV is a really good way to get past this idea of first past the post. It's a technical term that's more colloquial, I suppose, but it really incentivizes a two-party system, which if I were to ask some of you, I think you would probably not like the two-party system we have in this country. I think a lot of people don't like that. I'm personally not the biggest, anyway, doesn't matter. I'm getting off topic from my little notes here on my napkin. But first past the post really disincentivizes a lot of good competition, and we have seen that at this campus. The year before my freshman year, there were multiple candidates who ran for student body president, not just two. So people were eliminated in a primary. Since I've been here, there have been no people who have been eliminated in a primary. There are only two people who have run. We have seen in real time and in our time here at K-State that this system has incentivized only having two people. And if you notice, we don't have parties, but there's pretty two typical coalitions that you'll notice. Over the few years, coalitions have built up that are largely, I'll say it, Greek and non-Greek. It's not always the case, but it is often the case that there's a Greek ticket and a non-Greek ticket. It isn't always the case, but those are two coalitions that often exist. I think that moving to IRV can help eliminate and build some of those bridges that we have seen be built over the last election and might see this election. And finally, I'll just add, it's a really good education opportunity. I know Reed's got a big task ahead of him, and my time's running out to teach people about it, but it is happening that election systems are moving towards it in the US, in Maine, and other states. So
It's time for students to learn about it, learn if they don't like it and should advocate it against it in other electoral systems, or learn that they really like it and should advocate for it in their electoral systems in other places. Thanks for listening to the rambles. I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you for your debate, Lily. Is there any debate in the negative on Bill 12? Is there any further debate in the positive on Bill 12? And is there any debate at all? Seeing none, we will now move into a roll call vote for Bill 12.
Alrighty, thanks, Blake. We'll jump right into it. Bain.
Yes.
Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes.
Blood.
Yes.
Booz.
Yes.
Brummet. Kahlo. Carr.
Yes, by proxy.
Chappas.
Yes.
Compton.
Yes.
Croslow.
Yes by proxy.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Yes.
Doff.
Did you say Doc?
Dock.
Oh, yes by proxy.
Dunlap.
Yes by proxy.
Ansero.
Yes.
Esslinger.
Yes.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Hotzel.
Yes.
Jambunathan.
Yes by proxy.
Kidd.
Yes.
Koch.
Yes, by proxy.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Marquez. May.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
McPhee.
Yes.
Meadow.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Pineda Gomez.
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Prester.
Yes.
Richenberg.
Yes.
Riffle.
Yes.
Rook.
Yes.
Solomon.
Yes.
Scharnhorst.
Yay.
Shear.
Yes.
Spleakle.
Yes.
Stout.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Volgamore.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Willis. Jackson.
Yes.
And Willis Reese. Okay, on a vote of 48 to 1 to 0, that bill is approved.
All right. I appreciate the clapping. However, we only clap after resolutions of like appointment and commendation. Just for just for what we've done in the past. So with that, we will now move to Bill 13. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
I don't believe so. Although there is one thing in section 1, line 19, it should say the full unabbreviated name of our body.
I will get that change made. You have first rights to debate.
Okay, I'll keep my debate brief. First of all, I have to put on my grammar Nazi hat, or rather my jacket. After those comments last week about me being an English professor, I went out and bought this tweed monstrosity. Got it from Goodwill. I could be wearing the strongest cologne in the world and you could still smell this thing a mile away. Okay, that's been your comic relief. I'll keep my debate brief. Basically, good spelling and grammar good, bad spelling and grammar bad. That's all.
Thank you for your debate, Senator Scharnhorst. Is there, point of information?
I was just going to tell you the tag's still on. That's so humiliating.
Thank you for that. Is there any debate in the negative on Bill 13? Is there any additional debate in the positive on Bill 13? And is there any debate at all? Seeing none, we'll now move into a roll call vote.
Alrighty, thanks, Blake. Same rules as before, everyone. Bain.
Yes, I feel so much pressure being the first one always.
Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Bellamy.
Yes by proxy.
Binkley.
Yes.
Blood.
Pass.
Booz.
Yes.
Brummet. Kahlo, Carr,
Yes, by proxy.
Chapas,
Yes.
Compton,
Yes.
Croslow,
Yes, by proxy.
Cunningham, Demott,
Yeah.
Daw,
Yes, by proxy.
Dunlap,
Yes, by proxy.
Encero,
Yes.
Esslinger,
Yes.
Fuss,
Yes.
Gann,
Yes.
Glasscock,
Yes.
Holland,
Yes.
Hotzel,
Yes.
Jambunathan,
Yes by proxy.
Kidd, Koch,
Yes by proxy.
Kramer,
Yes.
Lister,
Yes.
Long,
Yep.
Lynn,
Yes.
Marquez, May,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
McPhee,
Yes.
Mado,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pineda Gomez,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Prester,
Abstain.
Richenberg,
Yes.
Riffle,
Yes.
Rook,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Scharnhorst,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Splekel,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Volgamore,
Yes.
Wallace, Warren,
No.
Willis,
Yes.
and okay. Coming back to Senator Blood.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and Kidd.
Yes. Sorry to Pete. Sorry.
Okay. On a vote of 47 to 1 to 1, that bill is also approved.
All right, with that, we will now move on to Bill 14.
Alrighty, thanks, Blake. Have any changes been made?
No.
Alrighty, you have first right to debate.
All right, everyone. So this bill changes up how we do our allocations in Student Senate. Just like a brief explanation again. Essentially, instead of considering some allocations in our final action, they'll all be considered like minor allocations where I read them up at the front, and then basically we ask for any objections to approve them or anything like that. So basically, this bill ultimately, at the end of the day, helps our Student Senate process. Allocations from our travel and on-campus allocations committee are almost never controversial. This maybe happens once per year, where we'll have a bill where we ultimately debate actually on if funding gets given to them. So this helps Student Senate run more efficiently while still allowing plenty of opportunity for us to evaluate these proposals and legislation that's presented to Student Senate. First, every student senator and generally every student on our campus can go to a committee to voice their support or any concerns for a piece of legislation. So when we see this come to Student Senate, everyone has the opportunity to go back to that committee and let them know what you think about it and have them consider that in committee. Second, myself, as well as the Senate Operations Chair, the On-Campus Allocations Committee Chair, and the Travel Allocations Committee Chair all have the ability to determine if something is going to be considered like a normal bill or resolution, or if it's going to be debated upon in 2 separate weeks like that, or if we just keep it in that minor allocation process, which is what this would change to. And third, all of you all as Student Senate by a majority vote have the option to consider any of these allocations in final action. All it takes is I move to consider Bill X in final action, requires a second, and you all can put that into final action instead. Additionally, this really helps to ensure that all of our student dollars are being valued equally. There is no rationale for why $850 is the cutoff between something being needed to consider to be considered in final action versus I just read it at the front. And so these should all be considered the same way, especially because they are generally non-controversial. So tonight, I really urge you all to vote in the positive so that we can ensure the efficiency of Student Senate, as well as while also valuing student dollars and giving plenty of opportunity for us to still evaluate proposals and do our due diligence in Student Senate.
Alrighty, thanks so much for that debate, Blake. We will now entertain any speeches in the negative. Senator Blood.
So I really appreciate trying to speed up Student Senate processes, and all of our time is valuable, and that's really important. However, when it comes to governing and government, as well as the distribution of student funds, I think there are areas where efficiency is not needed, and that is really one of them. And while at times there are smaller dollar amounts of money that can be approved more quickly, there are other times where more scrutiny needs to be given just because of the dollar amount, just to make sure that the funds that are being given out, that the student funds that we've been entrusted to appropriate are given out in the best way possible. In fact, K-State even has their own rules for certain dollar limits that need more funding as well. According to PPM 3070.05 and PPM 6310.03, there's a $10,000 limit for what departments and other groups can approve right away, and then a $50,000 limit after the head chair. And in fact, if we were ever to sign a contract over $1 million, it would have to go through the KBOR CEO. And so there are reasons why there are limits involved in legislative processes, especially for public entities, but also for private entities that require more scrutiny and more approval to go through. And personally, I don't really care if the number is $850, $1,000, $2,000, or $10,000. But I believe that there should be a dollar limit where it needs to go through more scrutiny, not just with a committee, but also the entire body of Student Senate, where we need to look at it in more depth over 2 weeks. And so that's why I urge you to vote no on this piece of legislation, because we should have that dollar limit no matter what it is, and we can go back to Senate operations, we can go back to the Privilege Fee Committee and figure out what that best limit should be. But at this point, we shouldn't just remove that limit and remove that power from our body just to improve our efficiency and just to make it easier to hand out student dollars without going through to make sure those are the right places to hand out student dollars.
Alrighty, thank you for that debate, Brian. We will now entertain speeches in the positive. Chair Long.
Just very quick, previous speaker brought up that larger dollar amounts require increased scrutiny. I agree. That's why there are 5 methods and 4 chair positions and a majority vote that we can bring it to greater scrutiny. That's it.
Alrighty, thank you for your debate, Jacob. We will now return to speeches in the negative. Senator Booz.
As opposed to my other speech, this is my famous not quite negative speech, which is me very much equivocating over whether I approve of the bill or not. I definitely see the rationale. I definitely could think that, yeah, it's hardly ever controversial and there's ways to move it out. So, that makes sense. I do think that this depends on your opinion of the people that will tend to be in Student Senate. Like, do you believe that they'll pull that everyone who isn't a committee chair will notice? And I generally think that they will, which is why, I'm not leaning towards voting no. But that, it depends on your opinion of will people read the agenda and will people notice it and will people, do things like that? Because it's quite possible that the chair or the speaker may not think it will be controversial or may not think it will be or may not want to pull it out as because they don't want to acknowledge that it will be controversial or something like that, and then it just kind of sneaks through. And so I think that is kind of a threat, and I'm not particularly sure what to do about it. So I would definitely be in favor of setting a higher limit. I'm not quite sure if I'm in favor of this.
Alrighty, thank you for your debate, Andrew. We will now return to speeches in the positive. Leader Lynn.
I have a point of information and then a debate.
Oh, okay.
Blake, it is that you can, if it requires further scrutiny, isn't there something in there that says we can revert to voting on it differently?
Yeah, so in the proposed legislation?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So essentially if, say, for example, the minor allocation that we have on the agenda tonight, next week, anyone could make a motion to, basically you would just say, I move to consider bill, whatever that bill number is, in final action. And so at that point in time, we would move into debate on the bill and then vote on it like normal.
Okay.
Thank you for that question. You're good to speak.
I think you have another point of information.
Point of information, Gus?
Yes, point of information. What is the dollar maximum that the on-campus and travel allocations committees can give?
Yes, so for the travel allocations committee, it is $100 per student up to 10 students, so up to $1,000 from that committee. On campus, I believe, does not have a limit on how much they can give. It's just limited to their allocation that they have from the student services fee, which is, I believe, like $80K. So,
point of information from Chair Long.
Currently, on-campus allocations has near $30,000 they can allocate.
Thank you for that. I closed the extra part of the 3.
Alrighty, thank you. Something else.
Yes, point of information. About how much does your average on-campus allocation request, and how much do you allocate?
So I apologize, I'm the travel chair. Durga is the on-campus chair, she's out here. Travel, we average about 700 to 1,000.
Right.
So
This
higher.
Anyone else have that
I've been
information?
on OCAD twice. Yeah, I would say on average, it's between 500 to a couple thousand, 2,000 on the higher end.
Alrighty, thanks for that question. Question from Chair May.
Yeah. If somebody was to move to consider something in final action, what would the vote have to be for that to be considered in final action?
Yes, that's a simple majority of senators present.
Okay, perfect. Peyton, you're good to go.
Okay. I've got this in my hand. Okay, so just in response to previous speaker's point about sometimes there is need for expediency and sometimes there isn't. Blake could correct me if I'm wrong, but I really don't think that the intent of this bill is to make student senate go faster. I think it just is to make this process make a little bit more sense in terms of like, why is it an $850 limit? There's no real reason for that number to be what it is. And I believe personally, like as a mark of a good student senator who is here because hopefully you all want to be here, that we are reading the agendas and looking over these pieces of legislation with scrutiny before they ever come to this chamber. That's kind of part of the job. So, you know, if we're all doing our jobs and doing our due diligence, then that should not be an issue. And if it needs further scrutiny from the entire body, we can, as we kind of just talked about, we can have that debate and have that discussion later on. But just to make it make a little bit more sense and have them all be kind of on the same playing field, I would urge a vote yes on this bill.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that debate, Peyton. We will now entertain any speeches in the negative. Leader Kidd.
Thank you. I'll keep this very, very brief. So with, I think being the longest standing senator, maybe not consecutively, but being the longest standing senator in this room, I just want to provide some historical context because I think it could be helpful. So I was actually on the Allocations Committee back in 2010 and 2011, back when it was just one Allocations Committee. There wasn't travel allocations, there wasn't minor allocations, there wasn't whatever the other allocations is. It was just one big Allocations Committee. So we heard and listened to everything. So with that, every single thing that we wanted to do to pass, and I can't see, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Everything that we wanted to, that we listened to and everything, we had to make its own bill for coming in front of Senate. I once had to argue and defend why we wanted to provide $30 for a group for decorations, and I'm like, that's just crazy. And now kind of swinging it to the other side of the pendulum of wanting to just make things a little bit more expedient. Why the $850 number? I was just telling Senator Booz about this. At the time that this happened to kind of split allocations up a little bit, what I believe they did was that they went back and just analyzed the average amount, so similar to what someone asked before, and that I think that sweet spot was right around $850 for that break as to what would separate a minor allocation versus something else. And I believe that the intent of that was to kind of like test drive this and see how this goes, and then if we need to adjust, then as a body we can make those adjustments. Since we're SGA, we can do that sort of thing. I am not necessarily speaking negatively on this, but again, I just think the historical context helps. That is pretty much it. Sorry. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for that debate, Marcus. We'll now return to speeches in the positive. Senator Scharnhorst.
So I'd just like to comment a little bit on why maybe expediency in this process of passing allocations bills might be necessary. In my time at K-State, clubs and organizations have been one of the most important parts of my extracurricular life. I can personally attest from being a leader in a club on campus that allocations are the lifeblood of certain organizations on campus. Some can get away without having any money allocated to them, but for some it's the make or break difference between the club doing something meaningful and having a bad year where they lose membership. And additionally, the point of expediency is that events sometimes can be planned in advance, and you don't know, based on how long this body takes to get something through, if you're actually going to get the money you need to plan that event. As far as a specific dollar amount that would cut off minor from regular allocations, 850, yeah, I guess has a historical rationale, but if it just does seem arbitrary to us now, maybe it has become arbitrary. And if that's the case, well, I could pick a number like 2,500 or 5,000 and say that's the cutoff. So I wholeheartedly agree with this because it makes things more expedient for clubs that have urgent needs, and it treats dollars with the level of fluidity that is required for expedient allocations. That's all.
Alrighty, thank you so much for that debate, Gus. We'll now bounce back to speeches in the negative. Okay, seeing none, are there any further speeches in the positive? Are there any further speeches at all? Senator Booth.
I have a motion. I would like to send this back to Senate Operations Committee.
Okay.
Second. I am interested in modifying this to be more of a higher cutoff than.
Are you interested? Okay, yeah, that sounds like a
But I do
different.
not have an amendment ready, nor have I analyzed the bills.
Perfect, thank you. I'm not quite sure whether this is a debatable motion or what requires. Okay, perfect. So it is a debatable motion. Senator Booz, is there a second, first of all?
Second.
Perfect, thank you. Senator Booz, since you made the motion, you have first rights to debate.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I am more interested in something that would raise the bar as opposed to get rid of it completely. There also are additional grammatical problems that I see with this resolution that it would be beneficial to correct, or at least discuss more. We also have seen that there is some interest in figuring out the data of like what is the average on-campus fee, what percentage are controversial and that sort of thing. And like I definitely think we could do more work on this. And that could be done in Senate Operations. I was also thinking it maybe could be done in Privilege Fee, but maybe not. They have enough to do as it is anyway. So Senate Operations, I believe, would overall be good for this. And we could do that work in the next couple of weeks and report back.
Alrighty, thanks for that debate, Andrew. So now, on the motion to send this legislation back to Senate Operations, we'll start speeches in the negative. Speaker Phillips.
Woo, I'm getting more debate action in tonight than I might all year. This is crazy. Really just one thing that I really want to talk about in terms of referring this back to committee. While I do appreciate the sentiment of this, I feel that the correct process to go about going with this would be to vote. Well, number one, vote to refer to a committee down. And then number two, if you feel that this isn't the appropriate change, vote no. We saw, that is totally fine if you don't feel like this is the appropriate change, but the best course of action is not to send this back to committee and modify it to something that isn't even, in my opinion, similar to what's currently on the floor. What we have right now is a complete grouping. It doesn't deal with any, changing the amount at all. So essentially, what your choice here would be is if you want them all to be considered the exact same way, you should vote referring to Senate Operations Committee, no, and then vote yes on this bill today. If you feel like there should be some number, which in my opinion is still arbitrary no matter what number we pick, then I think you should vote this motion to send to committee down and then vote this bill down. So while I do appreciate the thought, and this isn't necessarily like the overly negative speech, I think that if that is the option that you want to pursue, this is not the correct way to do it. So I encourage a vote no on this, no matter which way you want to vote on the bill. But I say that we deal with what's on the floor today and explore those options later if it fails. So thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for that debate, Blake. So now, still on the question of whether or not to return this to committee, are there any speeches in the positive? Senator Booz.
Yeah, I'm getting more speeches in today as well than I've gotten up until this point. But the last speech that the previous speaker gave actually really kind of clarified a philosophical difference I think we kind of have. I think the previous speaker really does want to just decide things very now today, and I think on governmental documents that is not the right course of action. I think it's really important to take your time, up to 2 years in some cases, and get it right. And I think that we could do that in committee. We could do that by voting this down. And I believe that you should not vote no on this just because you want to vote this down. And if you think that we can make a better bill in small group discussion in a committee, then you should vote yes. And I think that's valuable in a lot of cases, including this one. So both perspectives you can take, but I'd take this, especially on governmental documents.
Alrighty, thank you, Andrew. So we'll now move back to a speech in the negative on the motion to send it back to committee. Are there any speeches in the negative? Okay, seeing none, are there any further speeches in the positive? Are there any further speeches on the motion to send this back to committee at all? Do you have a question, Brian?
Yeah, where?
Right there. Okay. So are there any further speeches at all? Perfect. So we can try a hand raise vote on the motion to send this back to committee. So if you'd like to refer this legislation back to Senate Operations, please raise your placard.
In favor?
If you're in favor of the motion to send this legislation back to Senate Operations, please raise your placard. Okay, if you are against the motion to send this back to Senate Operations, please raise your placard. Okay, that motion fails, and we'll now return to speeches in debate on the bill. We are in order for a speech in the negation. Are there any speakers in the negative? Okay. Are there any speeches in the positive? Are there any further speeches at all? Okay. Senator Blood, if my guess is correct, is your intention to submit an amendment on this legislation?
Not anymore.
Okay, okay. So in that case, as normal, we're going to proceed into a roll call vote on the legislation, completely normal, not amended. Alrighty, first, Bain.
Yes.
Bannister.
No.
Barron.
Yes.
Binkley.
No.
Bellamy.
Yes by proxy.
Blood.
No.
Booz.
No.
Brummis. Kahlo. Carr.
No, by proxy.
Chappas.
Yes.
Compton.
Pass.
Croslow.
Yes by proxy.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Yes.
Dock.
Yes by proxy.
Dunlap.
Yes by proxy.
Ansero.
No.
Esslinger.
Yes.
Fuss.
Yes.
Gann.
Yes.
Glasscock.
No.
Yes.
Holland. Hotzel.
Yes.
Jambunathan.
Yes by proxy.
Kidd.
Pass.
Koch.
Yes, by proxy.
Kramer.
Yes.
Lister.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Marquez. May.
Abstain.
Mayor.
Yes.
McPhee.
Yes.
Mideau.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Pineda Gomez.
No.
Porter.
Yes.
Prester.
Yes.
Richenberg.
Yes.
Riffle.
Yes.
Rook.
No.
Salmon.
Yes.
Scharnhorst,
Yay.
Shear,
Yes.
Splekel,
Yes.
Stout,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Volgamore,
No.
Wallace,
No.
Warren,
Yes.
Willis Jackson,
Yes.
and Willis Reese. Returning to the passes, Compton
No.
and Kidd.
No.
Okay, is there anyone who passed who I did not call? Perfect. On a vote of 34 to 14 to 1, this legislation is approved.
All right. With that, we will now move on to introduction of minor allocations. And so first up, we have Bill 212215. This is the fiscal year 2022 on-campus allocation to the creative arts therapy students. They are going to the Voices and Peronia training on November 13th, 2021 at West Stadium 117. They will be seeing a speaker, and they requested $700 from the on-campus, or they won't be seeing, sorry. They're hosting a speaker, requested $700 and recommended $700. We'll now move into introduction of legislation. First up, we have Bill 212216. Is there a motion on Bill 16? Senator Booth.
I move to consider Bill 16.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Bill 16. Will the author please come forward?
Apologies, everyone. All right, Bill 212216, fiscal year 2022, travel allocation to Associated General Contractors of America. Whereas the Travel Allocations Committee received and reviewed the travel requests of Associated General Contractors of America, AGC. Whereas AGC is taking 13 students to the AGC National Convention in Grapevine, Texas, which is taking place March 27th through April 1st, 2022. Students attending will have the opportunity to network with industry professionals and learn about new technologies and practices. Whereas AGC has attended the National Convention previously, whereas students who attended the convention will share the knowledge they gained with fellow students and general membership in applicable classes and open general meetings. Whereas Associated General Contractors of America is registered with the Center for Student Involvement and as a departmental student organization, and whereas the funds requested by this group and recommendations are as follows. For the AGC National Convention, they requested $1,000, we are recommending $1,000. Be it enacted that Section 1, Associated General Contractors of America shall be allocated $1,000 for the event described, and Section 2, upon passage by the student senate and the signature of the student body president, these funds shall be transferred from NISA Con RSV to account NISA 0133CC of General Contractors of America.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, thank you, Jacob. I will now seek a motion to consider Resolution 16. Chair Solomon.
I move to consider Resolution 16. Bill. Is that Bill's again? Sorry.
Resolution.
Wait, wouldn't that be a bill? It says Bill.
Oh, hold on. No, it says
He's right.
resolution 20. No.
I guess that's a correction. Oh. Oh. Hey. Anyway, I will second that.
No, RJ, you're looking at Bill 16 still.
Yeah. Oh, this should be.
Oh, my bad. I have Bill 16 on the top, or on the actual legislation of the agenda. It should be Resolution 26.
We have Bill 16 and a Resolution 16, don't we?
Yes, sorry. So that last piece of legislation we have is correct. This is Resolution 26. That's my bad. I have it as Resolution 16 on like the actual piece of legislation. I will get that corrected to 26.
The transfer of funds to resolution.
No.
So it is, and I'll explain here in a second. So is there a motion to consider Resolution 26? Senator Porter.
I move to consider Resolution 26.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 26. Okay, so first, before I start, I'm just going to take it as like a point of information and kind of explain that. So the reason that this is a resolution and not a bill is because everything that we do with the Educational Opportunity Fund and the Student Center Tuition Enhancements Committee has been done via resolution, even when we distribute these funds. So there's no rationale for it to be a bill in this sense. I had a discussion with Amy about that, and this was the determination we came to. If we find out that it needs to be a bill, I would be more than happy to renumber accordingly, but resolution, in our opinion, is the proper way to go. So anyway, Resolution 21, 22, 26, transfer of funds from SCTE reserve account to EOF reserve account. Authors Blake Phillips, sponsors Cameron Koger, Jacob Long, Peyton Lynn, Tram Pham, and Blake Phillips. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association allocates a certain amount of tuition money from central administration through the Student-Centered Tuition Enhancements Committee and the Educational Opportunity Fund Committee. Whereas SCTE funds are used as seed money for the creation and implementation of new programs and initiatives that enhance student experiences at K-State. Whereas EOF funds are used to provide grants to campus entities and departments for projects that support historically underrepresented students. Whereas SCTE currently allocates about $613,756 and has a reserve balance of $727,178.25. Whereas EOF currently allocates about $317,164 and has a reserve balance of $179,979.81. Whereas the amount that has been requested from the EOF committee has consistently been much higher than the amount made available to allocate. Whereas the amount requested from the EOF committee continues to rise each year. Whereas redistributing funds between reserve accounts can help EOF alleviate potential decreases in budget allocations while facing increased requests. Whereas transferring $129,088.51 allows for each committee to have approximately 1 year's worth of reserves in each reserve account. And whereas funds may be moved between these reserve accounts by a majority vote of Student Senate. Be it enacted that, Section 1, there be a one-time transfer of $129,088.51 from the Student-Centered Tuition Enhancements Reserve to the Educational Opportunity Fund Reserve. Section 2, upon passage of the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this bill shall be sent to Amy Lee, Center for Student Involvement Accountant, to comply with internal auditing procedures.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for the author, Senator Booz?
Yeah, as a question, like we can do this because they're both funded from tuition, correct?
Yes, correct. So actually, up until about 1 month ago, the general understanding was that we couldn't change these sums of money. So, for example, what was allocated to EOF could only be used for EOF, same thing for SCTE. Come to find out, this actually is not the case. This is one, you can look at it as one pool of money that we have just decided to allocate certain amounts to. So after discussions with Dr. Lane, we are able to move the various amounts in between each other because it's the same tuition source.
Yeah, can I get a follow-up to that?
Of course.
Would we also be able to change the amount that they're allocating, like trade off between them?
Yes. So that is actually kind of what prompted this bill in the first place. I've served on EOF for the past 2 years, and that committee has always been really hard pressed for funding, whereas recently SCTE has not been. And so I was curious, how can we maybe flip-flop that? And so that is where the discussions with Dr. Lane started. After reviewing some of the data, number one, I don't think that that's a decision that should be made by me alone. And number two, after reviewing it, there's a lot of different ways to look at it that can support actually both sides. So I wanted to take a deeper look at the specific amount that is allocated to each. It's currently about 2/3 SCTE, 1/3 EOF, before making that decision. And that's something that I intend to do with a larger group of people throughout the remainder of this term.
Alrighty, thanks for that question, Andrew. Are there any further? Senator Sean Harkin.
Yes, correction, line 43, bill should be changed to resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Are there any further questions or corrections for the speaker? Senator Blood.
So why are we needing to transfer this money now?
Yeah, so my rationale for this, really just looking specifically at the EOF committee, like I mentioned in the resolution, the amount that is requested continues to rise each year. And Cameron, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's the case this year too, where we've had just number one, significantly more requests than what we have available, and the amount requested continues to rise. So with that, we've actually been depleting that reserve account a little bit time over time because these are really hard decisions, and we want to be able to fund certain entities. So that reserve account is getting lower while the SCTE one is getting higher. And when you do this specific transfer, each one has about 97% of basically 1 year's allocation. So kind of a really good split to reset those reserve accounts as each one has 1 year essentially, is the reason for this specifically.
Alrighty, thanks for that question, Brian. Chair Long.
Just to follow up with that, our allocation amount for EOF is about $124,000 less than the request this year.
Yeah, $124,000 less. Say that one more time.
All the requests we've had.
Yes, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically 140% of the amount that we have allotted allocated.
So this will just help to alleviate some of those decisions as requests increase and money potentially decreases.
Alrighty. Are there any further questions or corrections for the speaker? Alrighty, fantastic.
Whew, I don't know how you all do it. I don't talk this much usually. All right. With that, we will now move into our second open period for the night. Are there any speakers for second open period? Senator Porter.
So I just wanted to come out here and say, address those of you that voted no on Bill 10. I don't remember the exact number, but I think there were 22 of you, and I'm going to go ahead and say that it's now your responsibility to make sure that members of faculty come to Senate. If you voted no on that resolution, or that bill, because you believe that it's valuable, that their voices are represented, I'm going to charge you with making sure that members of student life and members of the faculty come to every single Senate here on out. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further speakers for second open period? Caucus Leader Lynn.
Okay, I have been having a lot of discussions with Blake about this over the past several weeks. And something that I notice a lot when we're sitting in Senate is people coming up to the podium and saying, I'm gonna be really, really quick about this, and then kind of like speeding through some of the speeches and stuff. And while, yes, our time is very valuable, I do think it's important to remember that this is a responsibility that all of us volunteered for and all of us signed up for. And I think we owe it to the students that we're representing to not try to dissuade ourselves from speaking or getting up and talking about the things that matter. Anytime a call to previous order is, or a call previous question is made, I will always vote no on that because I don't want to discourage anybody from getting up and debating if they want to. That's why we're here, to represent those voices of the students that are our constituents. And I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak if they're wanting to speak. And we don't need to be like pressuring people to talk as fast as they can or not make those speeches if they feel like they need to. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Caucus Leader Lynn. President Dowd, I had you next.
Yeah, just wanted to take a moment and make a little call out. As Blake and a couple of others already know, that is my favorite Cargill word, is call out. But I do just want to say that in these second open period discussions, let's remember to not use this as a time to chastise our other members of Senate. And on top of that, create a culture in which all of us can come together and can express our opinions as so. And on top of that, I would also just like to reemphasize that when we single out specific members of the body, and it's happened multiple times, not just tonight, but in previous moments as well, that discourages other people from joining this body on top of that. So I'm not calling out anyone in particular. I've done it before, not only in previous times throughout student government in all 4 years, but also during this year. So it's something just as a reminder and a thing that we can all work together on. So that's all that I have. If you have any questions about insufficient funds, any questions just in general, there's a lot of things going on right now. So feel free to stop by the office. Again, just promise and reinstate the pledge that we're here to listen, we're here to work together, and we're here for every single person here in the 20,585 students on this campus.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions for President Dowd? Seeing none, thank you for your speech. Chair Harmon.
100% emphasize insufficient funds and student services fee deficit stuff. This is really big stuff. Do come talk to me. I'm meeting with many entity directors all this week and next week about all of this. But that's not the main point of my second open period address to you all. I didn't realize this was going to be a little bit spicy, but I'm going to make it a little bit spicy. I'm going to actually disagree with President Dowd just a little bit, in that in Student Senate, I think that we don't have very many ways. We differ from many student organizations in the fact that we really don't have very many mass modes of communication with the entire body. And so I am of the opinion that definitely second open period and debate, especially, this is something I've noticed tonight, I am always moving, trying to encourage more congenial, good-hearted, good-natured, logical debate, and as we learned in Pizza and Parla this evening, in the spirit of decorum. So definitely ask our wonderful parliamentarian Ariana about what decorum means, but I think we should all be striving to be more decorous to our fellow body members. However, I do not think that goes so far as to limit our ability to speak our mind and share our thoughts about how things can be better in the body. And so I disagree with the previous speaker about second open period being an important piece of our ability to share things that we notice in the body. And it is definitely not meant to be a time to call out or chastise individual members, but it is certainly a time to be able to share your opinions and offer suggestions on how you think we can work together better as a body. And so there's some nuance there. Like, that's a fine line to walk, and I admit that. But I definitely wanted to address that nuance and was already planning on addressing some decorum in debate and general congeniality in general. So that looped in really well. And the last and final thing, because of the large change in how we handle debate made last spring, we now move through debate much quicker. And so Old Senate was in the serious habit of, I do not remember the last time of when we got through 5 pieces of debate, positive and negative, and the motion to close debate was not immediately called the moment we hit that mark. Now that we have finally made that change, and I will speak as the author of that change, it was very much my intent to move past the culture of immediately closing debate after those back and forth 5 times of debate. And so that is just something I would like to encourage you all. It is well within your right as a voting member of the body or somebody who has speaking rights to make the motion to close debate. However, we have made a substantial institutional change in how we handle that back and forth discussion. So would very much recommend, as anybody who has served in any other voting capacity body with me, I'm always harping in those other bodies about how we should not be closing debate, and I think that is a thing that is very serious. And as with with some other stuff, we kind of move through that pretty quickly. So those are just some of my thoughts and suggestions, so take them for what you will.
Thank you very much, Chair Harmon. Senator Booz, I had you next.
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm not even really done with IRV because we've got to send it to IT and make sure that they know what the specs are and work with them to build it and make sure that they build it correctly and all of that. But we passed the bill tonight, and that's great. All of that is to say that I do not have the personal bandwidth to be the primary author on any legislation regarding, what I spoke about tonight. In other instances, I would be more than happy to look over your other stuff, but expect me to be laying a little more low on legislation for a while. So, because I have some other stuff with school and that sort of thing to work on. So anyway, I will be more than happy to co-author stuff with you, though.
Awesome. Are there any speakers for second open period? Communications Director Grolmes.
Hey everyone, I popped in here a little late, so this is why I'm giving my what probably would have been director's report now. But reminder that headshots are this Sunday. The link to sign up is in the announcements on the agenda. There's a Google sheet, you can fill it out. or just like show up, it's fine. But yeah, if you're a committee chair, like please send this to everyone who is in your committee, because this is open to literally every member of SGA. So tell your friends if they don't know about it, or maybe they're executive and don't look at this. I just want everyone who wants a headshot to have the opportunity to get one. So if you can't make any of the times, please email me, text me, like whatever form of communication you have, or get my phone number and we can work out another time, because if you want one, I want you to be able to get one. So yeah, that's it.
Ooh, question from Coxley Kid.
Yeah, so if we like our one from last year, can you use that one? Or can we use that one for whatever we're gonna use it for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess first to like what we use it for, I could, if I have like your permission, then I could post it and whatnot. But I think this is also just a great like resource for like everyone to have. But if you like your last year's one, then that's great. So yeah, there's no reason why it would need to be updated. Yeah.
Awesome. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I'll now seek further speakers. Director Colburn.
Okay, I have one SGA thing and one non-SGA thing. I'll start with SGA. I really don't like acronyms, and so this is maybe not decorous of me, but I'm going to read the acrostic poem that I wrote about it. I've been forming it for a couple weeks with Senator Glasscock. Annoying code reserved only for nobility, period. And you are, and you are minuscule. So, you can see it looks better written. It's an acrostic poem. Anyway, I really urge you to think about how you use acronyms in this body. And I think that you should always, when first referencing something, use the full title. So, SCTE, Student-Centered Tuition Enhancements Committee, EOF, Educational Opportunity Fund. We've started using OCAC, which I really don't like, but on-campus allocation. Student services fee might get us away from doing that, because Senator Glasscock actually enjoys the phrase "stoofy," which I don't know if that's popular or not. But anyway, student services fee might get us away from using things like priv fee and things like that. Anyway, so that's just like a little decorum piece that I can also show you my poem. I'm really proud of it. I finished it tonight. So I wanted to share that and also tie it into what I'm going to talk about that's non-Student Senate related. And that I coordinate a program on campus called International Service Teams, commonly referred to as IST. If you're an avid K-State Today reader, you might have seen some of the announcements about it. But if you are interested in studying abroad but haven't had the time because of COVID or classes or anything, IST is a summer opportunity to spend 2 months abroad working in one host site, one of 5 different host sites that we have across the world. So it's open for seniors as well. So even if you're graduating in May and you didn't get to study abroad because of COVID, this is a really good opportunity to spend a couple months abroad thinking really intentionally about how to serve, how it can relate to your future career and all those things. So I'm happy to talk to you about it. It's like my job to recruit people, so I can't not look at you and tell you about it. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Director Colburn? Chair Harmon.
This is facetious, but has Senator Glasscock been informed how wrong he is about his pronunciation?
I think he's on the Zoom call, so he could speak for himself.
Wonderful.
But I think he is like...
Consider yourself warned, Senator Glasscock.
Senator Glasscock, I know it's hard to hear, but Max Harmon does not like the term stoofy, apparently.
Oh, I heard.
Anyway, thanks, friends.
Thank you all. Are there any further second open period speeches for the night? Senator Scharnhorst.
Okay, I have 2 things. The first is that during one of the director's reports early this evening, it was mentioned that there's a misconception about the idea of reaffiliating Greek life with K-State. That is, changing their status from that of ISOs, independent student organizations, to something more like our DSOs, departmental student organizations. the executive branch working more closely with the administration does have a better opportunity to tell us of things that might not be obvious to us as students. But I wanted to voice the idea that when people suggested that reaffiliation is a solution to the problem of sexual violence on this campus, they did not mean this is a silver bullet that will be easy and solve this problem like a wave of a wand. I think the suggestion is made with full knowledge of how difficult it will be to do that. And the reason that that suggestion's made with that knowledge is because of the gravity of the situation. It's so needed that such extreme action of working through all the legal loopholes and the complex peculiarities of the issue is necessary. That's it for the first item. The second item, I would like to address the idea of, I guess, ordering the previous question. I believe that the work that SGA does is important, and when you choose to run for Senate, when you're sworn in, or when you're appointed for cabinet, appointed for judicial, you are accepting a responsibility. That is why you are sworn in. If you have a problem with that responsibility, and I'm not saying this to denigrate any particular member, I don't want to, this is not said with any malice. This body lives and dies by the people who do active work. And if you are not willing to do that, first of all, getting in the way of debate is choosing to be, it's choosing ignorance over knowledge. It's choosing your time over the time of Senate. And it's a choice to ignore your oath. And if that's the case, I really encourage you just to take the half absence and leave early instead of ordering the previous question. You get 3 of those per semester if you want to think about it that way. So you could leave right after first roll call if you really don't want to be here. And I think it's a shame every time that further debate is quashed. Once again, I want to reemphasize, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying, as someone who values this opportunity to do good highly, I really hate to have something get in the way of that.
Thank you for your speech, Senator Scharnhorst. Are there any questions? Senator Binkley.
Not a question, sorry, just another point.
Oh, gotcha. Any questions out there? Seeing none, Senator Binkley.
Hi, everyone. I would just like to say that on the topic of ordering a previous question, I believe it is, I think that a new point to bring up for a lot of people is a reason to do that is to stop people repeating the same point over and over again. So I think a lot of people in here would agree that we aren't trying to end debate. I'm here for a reason, just like we all are. I appreciate SGA just as much as the next person, as well as Senate. But our time is valuable, and it is time to be spent on a variety of issues, not repeating the same thing over and over and over. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Senator Binkley. Are there any questions? Seeing none, are there any further speakers tonight for second open period? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Good evening, everyone. So I wanted to just start off by apologizing to this body for tonight. When we brought up Bill 10 earlier, there were a lot of thoughts going through my head of, ooh, I was here many years ago when things were like this and things were like that, and I should probably say something because maybe the historical context could be helpful for the group. But I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I chose not to because I didn't think that what I had to contribute to the group would be valuable enough to suffice to change anyone's opinion. And I was actually going to, but then someone called previous question, and then that vote passed, but then ultimately the bill failed, so it turned out the way I wanted it to anyway. But nonetheless, though, I've been reminded multiple times tonight of the importance of the voices that we have, and I'll be frank, it's hard being the quote unquote dinosaur in the room where you've been here for such a long time. From 2009 to now, the only gap I've taken in Senate has just been for 2 years, and that was for me to really kind of go and get a master's. So I really wanted to focus on it. And now I'm back, and so which I'm glad to be back. I'm really fortunate for that experience and whatnot. But with that too, I think I personally have reached a time in my SGA career where I had to ask myself a lot of those questions. Should I say this? Will this be helpful? I don't know. Senator Booz and I tonight were talking about some things related to another bill regarding allocations, and I'm like, yeah, he wouldn't have known that. He wasn't here many years ago when we first introduced it, and a lot of you weren't here many years ago when we first introduced a lot of new things. But going back to the topic of Bill 10 for just a quick second, just to provide more historical context, because I think it's helpful. Before we had Senator Adams from Business as our faculty representative, we had Senator Kirby. And I know that a lot of you may not have met him because it's been a few years since he's been here at K-State, but he was a professor in biology. He was an amazing professor. I wasn't in biology, so I actually never had him for a class, so I have no idea how his quality of teaching affected his students. But I heard a lot of good things, so I assume he was really good at what he did. But the thing that I loved the most about Senator Kirby is whenever we would engage in longer Senate sessions, he just patiently and quietly sat over in his spot, which if we were back in the Big 12 room would be the equivalent of that spot over there, where Advisor Ferris used to sit, and now she sits back there. It was just amazing how he just listened. He just listened and listened and listened. I don't want to say any false claims or anything, but I think maybe in some time of his tenure of being a faculty rep for us here in SGA, that maybe during that time, that's when Faculty Senate decided to remove something of that language requiring for a faculty person to be here at Senate. And if that is the case, then I think that truly speaks to his care for SGA, for him wanting to be here. Again, I have no way of validating if that's true or not. Someone should maybe fact check that for me. But I think that also goes to, when we have people that have been here for so long, certain things can change, but certain things can change on paper, but may not change for us for what we see, since we have dedicated people that still continue to do certain things. So, but again, I wanted to kind of bring this back to my beginning part of I apologize. I apologize for not saying anything. I'll be more cognizant of the things that I think are valuable to contribute to the body, and I appreciate you all keeping everyone accountable in the room for helping us remember why we are all here. So thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Caucus Leader Kidd. Are there any further speakers tonight for second open period? All right. Oh, Advisor Ferris.
The old person. You're not the dinosaur. It's past my bedtime. Not really. We're getting really close, though. Not gonna lie. And yes, I did decide to switch to the back of the room this year because I wanted to encourage all of you to move closer, which has not worked. Couple of thoughts. One, except for Peyton. Peyton is the winner.
Holding down the fort up here.
A couple of thoughts. I know there's a lot of discussion tonight around decorum and debate and this and that and all of these things. As the dinosaur, thank you, Marcus, I wanted to remind you all that you are also students. So when you leave here, the discussion does not have to end. When you leave this space, Max made a great point. This is a great space for you to debate, share your thoughts. You can differ with each other. That's fantastic. When you leave here, don't take that animosity that you may be feeling in this space with you. Go out of the space, continue conversations, and learn from each other. Because guess what? You're always going to disagree with someone. But you got to learn how to have conversations outside of just debate. Let me say my point, and no one else is going to listen, and I'm not going to listen to your point. So take that as a word of advice from the old person in the room. I've seen many relationships deteriorate because of debate in these spaces. And I don't want to see that from any of you all. Okay, that's my soapbox. The next thing is just a quick update on Org Central. How many of you love Org Central? I'm right there with you. So we do have a signed contract with a new vendor for Org Central. For those that have seen it, Michael, Rachel, Blake, some others from some exec have seen it. I can't speak for you, but I know our staff is thrilled with what capabilities the new platform will have. And I promise to bring you a insider look shortly. Oh, Nick has access to. Shortly to Senate to give you a brief preview of what the platform will look like and how it will function. So keep an eye out for that. That'll come later this month. I'm also a director of a unit that is part of the insufficient funds clause that's been enacted. Not here to sway you one way or the other. That's not my job at this point. But as a director who is being requested to make massive decisions about what we do in order to make those cuts happen, please, I beg of you, ask questions, ask me questions, ask student services fee questions, ask. Do your research. Meet with us outside of this. Have debate. Share your thoughts. Share your concerns. And please make sure that you're being very diligent in how you're making those decisions. Because not only do they impact the programs that we offer and the services we offer across the campus, it may also impact personnel. And that is a really tough place to be in as a director who has to make those decisions, but also for you all who have to vote to support whatever decision is made. So please make sure you do your homework and pay close attention to when those come forward. I will appreciate it, even if you cut my budget entirely. Please don't. I will appreciate the fact that you are at least having the conversation and asking questions. The last thing I wanted to share a quick update on is one that has come up quite a bit in this conversation today, but I've also heard it a couple of times over the last week. And that is around the student organization policy and the discussion that we're having right now. I currently serve as the chair of that group who is reviewing the student organization policy. So I invite any of you who have a concern, who have a strong opinion about that policy, email me. Come sit by me at the back of the room one day. Stop by my office, 112, just across the conference room from SGA offices. Come chat. I want to know what student perspectives are on that. I also want to point out, reaffiliation is not the appropriate word to utilize. We are not considering the idea of reaffiliation in one context or the other. What we are looking at is strictly the relationship of organizations to the university. It is not just fraternities and sororities. It is every student organization on campus. So I ask you, I beg of you, please do not use the phrase reaffiliation. For those who are in fraternities and sororities, many of you might be, that phrase may have one connotation. And for those who are outside of fraternities and sororities, that phrase may have a very different connotation. And so we don't want to peeve off either side of that. We are really strictly looking at the relationship of every student organization to the university. So please help me in correcting some of that language that's out there. Not sure where that started, but nonetheless, here we are. There is a slight update to where we're at with that policy group. I realize not everyone has great interest in this, but we will actually be forming a more direct subgroup that will take a deep dive, focused exploration around that relationship, particularly around jurisdiction and control of independent student organizations. And so we are looking at bringing together members of our fraternity and sorority community, of our club sport community, of our other ISO communities, looking at bringing faculty, the care office, our Title IX coordinator, all sorts of folks together to look specifically at ISO relationship to the university. That is going to be a slow and painful experience. But we do anticipate that we will have a proposal to President Myers by the end of December. So I will keep you posted on what that looks like. If you have interest, looking at any of you who may be in the Greek community or club sport community, who want to serve in that capacity, please hit me up. Otherwise, please know that we will communicate and we will share information as it comes available. But don't anticipate that a final determination will be made until December. And by final determination, I mean a proposal that will go to President Myers. Part of it is that we're trying to figure out how we balance with a new president coming. Because a new president could come in and say, oh, what you got right now is great, we're gonna leave it. They may come in and say, nope, has to change right now. So we have to balance that situation as well. So, I know it's late, I know y'all are ready to get out of here. Still got student shout outs. But do please come talk with me if you have questions about any of those things. And remember, be a good student, please. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Kelly. All right. Unless there are any further second open period speakers, I have a couple of things. So first of all, the survey. Please, people, fill out the survey. I would really appreciate it. I know less than half of our student senators have. I can tell what college you are in, too, so I will be emailing people if you don't. Please fill this out. This will really help me out. Number one, there's like a feedback tool on there. I really appreciate any feedback. But number two, this will really just help us get connected to each other as student senators, and it's a really great way to be able to work on the issues that we're passionate about. So please take the time to fill out the survey. It'll take like 2 minutes. I promise it is not a hassle, and I feel like I'm not asking very much for people to take that. So anyone's welcome to. If you're a student senator, please do that. The second thing, in the back, in like the little foyer area, there is leftover pizza from Pizza and Parla. Please take a slice as you leave. I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do if we have a lot of leftover storage-wise, so I would really appreciate not having to figure that out. So please take a slice. It is no charge, obviously, I think. But yeah, please take advantage of that. Michael?
Pizza is actually in the refrigerator. It's in some boxes. I didn't like it being sat out for more than 2 hours.
Oh,
good idea.
I appreciate you, Michael. Feel free to stop by the fridge in CSI in order to grab some pizza. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Alrighty, people. I think you've heard my voice way more than you need to tonight. So is anyone interested in reading Senate shoutouts? Chair Richenberg.
I veto.
So sad. My hand shot up so fast.
Yeah, you
Okay, I'll be try not to laugh during them so you can actually understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
May I just say Auga? Okay, Peyton Lynn's fit is 100 tonight. Senator Solomon's glasses, that's it. That's the shout out. All love to Marta. Joey Fuss is a legend and my BFF. Shout out to Chair Solomon's snazzy new glasses. Also, Senator Solomon's sweater. Okay, that's the full shout out for real this time. Shout out to Maggie for her informative director's report. Shout out to Dean Mocknick? Okay. Mocknick for being literally one of the coolest people ever. Maggie's new haircut is awesome. Shout out to Ari for putting together a awesome Pizza and Parla event. Shout out to everyone that debated tonight. We love seeing active members of SGA. Props to that cricket during IRV debate. To Ari for a great Pizza and Parla. To Blake for learning to count to 12. 3 hurrahs for Nick's sweater, very cute. The way my heart fluttered when comms director Gromez walked in. Hey Nick, nice sweater. Thank you to Blake for being a phenomenal speaker, not only working your tail off for students, but also helping out fellow leaders in SGA and always doing it with a kind and helpful attitude. Shout out to Senator Lister for being just a fab friend and a rad roommate. Weekly appreciation post for Senator Porter. Heart emoji. Love you, Shoddy. Shout out to Senator Booz for straight up popping off tonight. Shout out. Ooh, no. Congrats to Senator Booz for getting the election reform bill passed. You deserved it. Shout out to Stoofy Committee, which is what everybody calls it. To the Crickets providing comic relief. I've never had the chance to say it, but RJ, I absolutely love your hair. Shout out to Director Sarah Haggard for all her awesome work this week, both in preparation of and following the protest. Senator Kidd is such a gifted speaker, so eloquent, and can really tell a story. Shout out to Senator Prester for advocating for a smooth and efficient meeting.
Thank you so much, Marta. And I would like to give one shout out personally. I think we've seen a lot of debate, not just in debate, but a lot of people that are willing to speak during open period. Regardless of content, I personally think that's really fantastic. I mean, I love getting to hear from people that don't normally come up to the front of the room. So congratulations to all of you. I hope that more of that can happen in the future, even though it means us being here until 10 p.m.
Yes, just adding on to that really quick. I know that this is our first Senate where we've had a lot of debate, and so I was really excited to see that tonight and hope to see more debate continue into the future. Thank you all for your dedication to students, and I hope that we see more. So really quick, before we get to roll call, our reference of legislation, Bill 16 will be going to the Travel Allocations Committee, and Resolution 26 will be going to the Senate Executive Committee. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Saya.
Alrighty, roll call. Bain.
Here.
Bannister.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Binkley.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Booz.
Here.
Brummett. Kahlo. Carr.
Here by proxy.
Chappas.
Here.
Compton.
Here.
Cunningham. DeMott.
Here.
Ansero.
Here.
Esslinger.
Here.
Fuss.
Here.
Gann.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Holland.
Here.
Hotzel.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Kramer.
Here.
Lister.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Lynn.
Here.
Marquez. May.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
McPhee.
Here.
Mado.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Pineda Gomez.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Prester.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Riffle. Rook.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Scharnhorst.
Here.
Shear.
Here.
Spleakle.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Vogelmore. Wallace. Warren.
Here.
Willis Jackson.
Here.
And Willis Reese. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Hold on, everyone. I will now seek a motion for adjournment. Senator Porter, I saw you.
I move to adjourn until next Thursday.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Drive home safe and go Cats.
Okay.